Chapter 1084. Inauguration. With a deep bellow, chaotic force surged within Jianchen and a powerful force shot out. It shook off the 3 saint rulers that had grabbed him. Jianchen exploded with the strength of the 3rd layer of the chaotic body. It was equivalent to the 3rd heavenly layer of Saint King, far greater than anything saint rulers could withstand. The 3 saint rulers all shot back as they vomited blood, now heavily injured. A few people immediately flew out of the crowd to catch the injured people. When they checked their injuries, their expressions changed in surprise. Do you really think that I won't do anything to you just because we're in the Protector clan? I'll spare your lives this time, considering we are in the same clan and come from the same ancestor. If something like this happened on the Tianyuan continent, your lives would be dancing at my fingertips, Jianchen coldly said as he glanced past the 5 saint rulers. He showed them no respect, nor did he bother to ask which branch they were from. To Jianchen, he recognized no one else in the Protector clan other than Changyang Zhu Yunshao and Changyang Zhu Ying. With a wave of his hand, Changyang Qinglingshuang was thrown toward the crowd like the carcass of a pig. His eyes so cold and sharp they appeared like knives, as Jianchen said, "Changyang Qinglingshuang, it's best if you hold back your pride as a member of a Protector clan and not flaunt your seniority. Otherwise, I can kill you even if you have the Path Lord of Carnal Desires supporting you." No one went to catch Changyang Qinglingshuang. She hit the ground heavily in the end and became caked in soil. She was reduced to a rather horrible condition. Although it was packed with people right now, only a deathly silence existed. No one said anything, all stunned by Jianchen's strength and arrogance. 5 saint rulers had personally moved together, yet they were injured in such an easy fashion. They were even more fragile than Tofu. Moreover, the one who did all that did not even fear the Path Lord of Carnal Desires, which had shocked all of them deeply. As one of the Protector clans, the Changyang clan was one of 10 most powerful clans on the Tianyuan continent. They were in existence close to being divine, dignified and supreme. They were admired and looked up to by people. They had welcomed a junior today with 9 chimes of the bell of grand clarity, so was that junior really a saint emperor? Changyang Qinglingshuang was extremely prideful since young. Coupled with her impressive talent, she was greatly favored by Changyang Qingyun, and along with the fact that the Qing branch was the strongest of the 3, she believed that she towered over everyone else. She immediately lost her rationality due to anger. She had been embarrassed before everyone, so she obviously ignored Jianchen's threats, screaming out, "Changyang Xiangqian, how dare you lay your hands on a senior? Where are the disciplinary elders? Where are they? Why don't you quickly tie up this disrespectful person and hand him over to the great elders for punishment?" Changyang Qinglingshuang was no longer as glorious as before. She was currently disheveled while her clothes were soiled, even ripped in some places. She seemed more like a beggar. A middle-aged saint ruler covered her mouth, but his hand was flung away mercilessly. She was like an angered lion right now, except she had yet to charge up to Jianchen and maul him. 6 well-dressed, dignified, and righteous old men walked out of the crowd together. They stared at Jianchen with mixed emotions and felt troubled. The 6 of them were disciplinary elders of the Changyang clan. They were all saint rulers of the 9th heavenly layer, and their status and authority was only second to the great elders. Disciplinary elders, why don't you quickly punish this disrespectful clansman? Changyang Qinglingshuang had become irrational from her anger, but she still knew that she was not Jianchen's opponent. As a result, she yelled at the 6 old men. The disciplinary elders all sighed inside. They understood Jianchen extremely well. When he had returned from the Sea Realm a few years ago, they had all personally witnessed the great disturbances that had occurred on the continent. They knew that he was young, but he was someone that even the 10 Protector clans wished not to offend. They obviously dared not to intentionally offend Jianchen. The disciplinary elders arrived before Changyang Qinglingshuang, and one of them extended a finger to her neck. She was silenced, and the old man then gently sighed, "Lingshuang, how can you offend a valued guest that was welcomed by 9 chimes from the bell of grand clarity? Today it is all your fault. Once the great elders return, we will tell them what has happened." The 6 of them did not say the same thing to the 5 injured saint rulers, however. They were not thick-headed, They knew exactly who they could afford to offend and who not to. 7 vast presences appeared in the distance. The 7 great elders of the clan had all returned from outside, arriving on the floating piece of earth very quickly. Looking around, they immediately discovered that something was off. One of them asked with a deep voice, "What has happened?" The 6 disciplinary elders immediately reported to them about what had happened. They reported Jian Chen's deeds as lightly as possible, placing almost all the blame on Changyang Qinglingshuang. The 6 disciplinary elders were normally just and straightforward people, but they knew how to talk at moments like this. Changyang Qinglingshuang stamped her feet and became flustered on one side. Her face was filled with an unwillingness for this to occur and a feeling of being wronged. It was just a pity that she could not talk and that she was immobilized by 2 disciplinary elders beside her. She received no chance to challenge what they had said. Changyang Qingyun slightly frowned after the disciplinary elders gave their report. However, before he could speak out, Changyang Zhu Xiao growled, "Changyang Qinglingshuang, you cannot be forgiven for treating a valued guest like this. Disciplinary elders, immediately imprison her in the 1,000-year ice cavern for 100 years. "Yes, sir." The disciplinary elders bowed in response. The 3 great elders of the Qing branch frowned even more, Changyang Qingyun in particular. A sliver of anger had even appeared in his eyes. Changyang Qinglingshuang was one of the most talented members of his Qing branch. Imprisoning her in the 1,000-year ice cavern was like robbing her of 100 years of cultivation. The 7 others who dared to attack the valued guest will be imprisoned for 100 years too, Changyang Zhu Xiao continued. He was extremely solemn, to the point where he could not be denied. In the end, Changyang Qinglingshuang, the 2 women who followed her, and the 5 saint rulers, all suffered severe punishments. Those who wanted to punish Jian Chen but were stopped in the end all sighed inside for their luck. "Great-grandson, are you satisfied with this sentence?" Changyang Zhu Xiao's seriousness vanished as he smiled amicably at Jian Chen. Jian Chen slightly nodded. "Has the seal in great-grandfather Yun Kong's head been removed?" "My great-grandson, it's all because of you that the seal torturing Konger for so many years has been successfully removed. From today on, Konger can finally continue his cultivation." Changyang Zhu Yunxiao chuckled aloud. He was relieved. After talking some more, Jian Chen was brought to the divine hall by the great elders. Huang Wan was left outside with Changyang Zuyun. Soon after, a great voice boomed from within, echoing through the entire independent space. "From today on, Changyang Zhu Xiangtian of the Zhu branch will be a great elder of our Changyang clan, the 8th great elder." The announcement was made by the 7 great elders together. They declared Jian Chen's identity, but they added the extra character, Zhu, in Changyang Xiangtian to indicate he was a member of the Zhu branch. Once the news broke out, the clan was immediately thrown into an uproar. Various discussions broke out everywhere, though around half of them were objections. After all, Jian Chen was still an outsider in the eyes of many people. Immediately, a group of people who didn't approve of Jian Chen's inauguration as a great elder gathered together, objecting the matter outside the majestic divine hall. However, their objections were clearly nothing before the 7 great elders. They weren't able to do anything at all. The 7 great elders stepped forward together to quell the crowd. The 7 great elders possessed absolute authority in the Changyang clan. They represented everything. As long as they all agreed, they could decide everything for the clan. Jian Chen possessed the strength of a 7th heavenly layer Saint King, and by his side stood the winged tiger god as well as Rui Jin and He Yu, 2 supremely powerful experts. It was impossible for the protector Changyang clan to not pour everything they had to pull someone like that to their side. Once Jian Chen became a member of the protector clan, the great power in his hands would also fall into the hands of the protector clan. Not to mention, Jian Chen's fiancée, Yu, had been accepted by Fairy Hao Yu as a disciple. She had obtained the Bright Moon Divine Hall, and her future accomplishments were unfathomable. On the top floor of the Divine Hall was a grand and majestic hall. It was well decorated, where the level of extravagance far exceeded the imperial palaces of the 3 great empires. This was the ancestral hall of the protector Changyang clan. The hall was filled with memorial plates, reaching an innumerable about. All of these people were former great elders of the clan, and there was no lack in saint emperors among them. However, all of them had passed away already. Jian Chen stood with the 7 great elders in a row before the vast numbers of memorial plates. They paid respects to the people that the plates represented since they were all ancestors of the clan. Jian Chen had expected this to happen before he had come to the clan. He did not want to take up the position of great elder in the clan, but a single sentence from Changyang Zhu Yunkong changed his mind. Great-grandson, you are a member of our Zhu branch. You will become the glory of our branch. Jian Chen changed his mind because of that exact sentence. He did not reject his inauguration as great elder, as all of it was to glorify his great-grandfather Changyang Zhu Yunkong. All right, the ceremony has come to completion. Great-grandson, we should take you to the library of the clan next. All the records collected throughout the years by the clan are there, including many matters regarding secrets that happened in the past. There are also various cultivation methods, saint-tier battle skills, and the experience and comprehensions left behind by ancestors. Now that you've become a great elder of the clan, you have the right to view these records, smiled Changyang Zhu Shao. He felt glad inside. Jian Chen's interest was piqued. He was extremely interested in the records of secrets from the past. He did not really care about the cultivation methods or saint-tier battle skills since they were not suitable for him at all. Jian Chen did not visit the library immediately. He said, Great elders, someone has planted an ancient secret technique on Luaner that ties Luaner's fate with his own. May I ask if you have a method to remove it? Chapter 1085. Treasure of the Protector Clans. There are countless ancient secret techniques, as well as many that share the same name. Some are extremely simple while others are extraordinarily profound. Xiangtan, let's check and see what ancient secret technique it is first, said Changyang Yuanwuji. Jian Chen left the ancestral hall with the 7 great elders and invited Huang Luan inside. They gathered in the discussion hall on the first floor. The 7 great elders gathered around Huang Luan as they all pointed a finger at her head. They used a secret technique to sense the technique embedded in Huang Luan's soul. A while later, the 7 of them opened their eyes simultaneously. They all began to frown slightly. This ancient secret technique is quite complicated. It was planted directly onto her soul and has almost fused with it. It's extremely difficult to remove, Changyang Yuan Zhenghua gently sighed. He was filled with a sense of helplessness. Does that mean even you cannot help me remove this secret technique? Jian Chen became rather flustered inside. Everyone fell silent for a while before Changyang Zhu Shao said, I remember an ancient secret technique called the Void Soul Transcendence that can remove this secret technique. Though the ancient secret technique is just too profound, so I don't know it. A sliver of despair appeared in Jian Chen's eyes. I just happen to know the Void Soul Transcendence. Xiangtian, why don't you let me try it? Changyang Qingyun suddenly said. He was very calm right now as he gently smiled. He seemed to have completely forgotten about the displeasures from before. Jian Chen hesitated slightly before allowing Changyang Qingyun to try as he had no other choice in the end. However, he mentioned that he wanted to watch over the entire process. Jian Chen, breaking ancient secret techniques planted directly on the soul is extremely dangerous. I need to devote all my focus onto it, and I cannot risk any disturbances, or the consequences will be unthinkable. It's best if you wait outside for the safety of your beloved. Moreover, you're a great elder of the clan now. We're all one big family, and I'm your great-grandfather by seniority as well. Don't you trust your great-grandfather? Changyang Qingyun turned down Jian Chen's request to watch over on one side, before entering a room in the Divine Hall with Huang Luan. Jian Chen worried for Huang Luan, so he immediately extended his presence beyond his body to follow Changyang Qingyun. However, every inch off the Divine Hall was filled with the Divine Hall's power, so Jian Chen's presence could not extend past the obstructions. It was suppressed. Helpless inside, Jian Chen could only sit and wait there. The other great elders also stayed there with him. Only Changyang Qingjuri left due to some matters. Xiangtian, don't worry. Great Elder Qingyun's abilities are fantastic. He's reached great perfection for many years already, so he can be described as someone with a foot planted in Saint Emperor already. With him acting personally, even if Huang Yuan's seal can't be broken, she'll still come out unscathed, comforted Changyang Yuan Zhenghua. He had no negative opinion of Jianchen. Jianchen waited for 3 days, but Huang Yuan and Changyang Qingyun did not emerge. He did not even receive a single piece of news, so, in the end, out of boredom, he was taken around the clan again by Changyang Zhu Yunshao. Changyang Zhu Yunshao led Jianchen around on the floating piece of earth, explaining to him a few rules of the clan as well as some interesting events that occurred in the past. The two of them came across many clansmen of the inner clan, who called out and bowed to Changyang Zhu Yunshao. Although Jianchen was also a great elder, no one showed any respect to him. Jianchen did not care at all. He continued beside Changyang Zhu Yunshao and listened to his explanations. "Mom, is that person beside great elder Yunshao the outsider, Changyang Xiangtian?" Jianchen heard a young voice at this moment. Several hundred meters to his left, there was a boy, roughly 6 or 7 years of age, pointing at Jianchen as he spoke to a middle-aged woman. "Shoo, Qing Lin, be quiet, or you'll suffer a similar severe punishment." The middle-aged woman quickly covered the boy's mouth before glancing in Jianchen's direction in fear. The boy was young and fearless, so he rejected what his woman said. He righteously said, "Mom, I'm not scared. Great-grandfather Tianying was injured by Changyang Xiangtian and then locked up. Changyang Xiangtian is a bad guy. He's a big bad guy. He's not good." The boy got louder as he spoke, but the woman became quite terrified. She quickly covered his mouth and left with him in a hurry. Jianchen glanced at the boy before sighing inside. In front, there were a few young Heaven Saint Masters that walked past as well. They seemed to be roughly Jianchen's age. "I greet the great elder." The young men all bowed courteously to Changyang Zhu Yunshao, but their gazes toward Jianchen were not so kind. The Protector clan was separated from the world, so almost all the younger members of the clan had not stepped upon the Tianyuan continent. Only a portion of the senior members had gone out, so they had no clue about the brutality and laws of survival outside. As a result, they did not accept that strength reigned supreme. With their understanding, respect was based on seniority and had nothing to do with personal strength. They all disagreed very much with the fact that Jianchen had become a great elder at such a young age. At Jianchen's age, any single person in the inner clan was his senior. "Great-grandson, don't get too mad. The Protector clan has been separated from the world for too long, which has caused the members of the younger generation to deteriorate. Looks like choosing to become a hermit clan was not a smart choice. We should let these juniors wander the Tianyuan continent more often and witness the brutal world." Changyang Zhu Yunshao sighed. Jianchen paid no mind to them. Although he was someone who would always collect his debts, he was not petty. "What's that place?" Suddenly, Jianchen's eyes froze, and he focused on something in the distance. Within a mountain range beyond the floating island, the space constantly twisted as a vast, devastating aura radiated. "That's the forbidden grounds of our clan, the place where the Emperor armament is nourished. There are no clansmen that can approach it except for the great elders. Let's go and have a look." With that, Changyang Zhu Yunshao led Jianchen in that direction. The forbidden grounds are surrounded by layer upon layer of formations for protection. They were cast down by previous Saint Emperors, used specifically restraining the Emperor armament as well as the powerful sword qi and pressure that radiates from it all year round, Changyang Zhu Yunshao explained as he moved. Jianchen passed through the many formations, and as soon as he arrived inside, a vast pressure swept forward. Coupled with it was surging sword qi, which made him shudder inside. At the center of the forbidden grounds was a huge ancient sword stabbed into the ground. The tip of the sword was buried and the hilt pointed to the sky. It possessed a supreme presence, as if it could split the sky and rival the heavens. It was filled with a domineering presence. Jianchen became extremely serious as he stood before the Emperor armament. He said with a deep voice, "What a powerful Emperor armament. My Emperor armament is just too weak. Before it, I even feel that I have already been defeated. Unbelievable." Changyang Zhu Yunshao examined the Emperor armament with mixed emotions and sighed. This emperor armament existed when our clan was first founded. It was left behind by the founder, our first Saint Emperor. It has already existed for more than 1,000,000 years. An extremely ancient technique was left behind with the founder's emperor armament. It recorded the method to nourish the emperor armament. Once every Saint Emperor of our clan passes away from cultivation, they will leave behind their emperor armaments and fuse them with the emperor armament through the method left behind by the founder. After countless years, we have never been without Saint Emperors except in recent years. At our peak, we even had more than 10 of them existing at the same time, so over 100 Saint Emperors have appeared in our clan's history. That means that over 100 emperor armaments have been fused with the founder's emperor armament. Its power is unimaginable now and requires multiple Saint Emperors to control it, but even with that, it's impossible to use all of its power. At the same time, they will sustain extremely severe backlash that's extremely difficult to recover from. If we control it for too long, everyone's life may even fall into danger, and we might even die as a result. Jianchen was deeply shocked with that. He felt extremely fearful of the emperor armaments of the protector clans. They could only be controlled by multiple Saint Kings, and even with all those Saint Kings, not all of its power could be used. The controllers would even suffer severe backlashes, so Jianchen struggled to imagine just how powerful the emperor armaments really were. His own emperor armament immediately paled in comparison. They were both emperor armaments, but the disparity in power was just too vast. These emperor armaments are the treasure of the protector clans. They are the trump cards of the protector clans, as well as our ability to deal with Saint Emperors. It is also what protects us. Changyang Zhu Yunshao sighed emotionally. I wonder if the origin energy armor on Rui Jin and Heiyu can withstand the emperor armaments if the protector clans use it despite the consequences. Jianchen wondered inside. He had no idea, but he made up his mind at that moment. He would never, ever agitate the emperor armaments of the protector clans unless he had no other choice. Jianchen felt a lot of fear for the emperor armaments of the protector clans. Before them, even divine halls could be cleaved into two. Only Saint Emperors could withstand the power. Jianchen left the Forbidden Grounds with Changyang Zhu Yunshao, returning to the divine hall once more. Huang Wan remained in the room with Changyang Qingyun. No one knew whether the secret technique in her could be removed. Jianchen entered the library all by himself and made his way through the section where the cultivation methods and Saint-tier battle skills were stored. He was heading to where the ancient records were kept. Chapter 1086. Ancient records. There were many ancient records, all stored neatly on the bookshelves. Each book was made from high-class beast leather as the power of the divine hall circulated within. It provided 2 layers of protection for the books, so they could last for a very long time. Even though that was the case, many books still possess some wear. Even though they were made from high-class beast leather and were protected by the divine hall's power, they had begun to yellow, like an old man approaching his end. Everything major that had happened since ancient times had been recorded, along with some unprecedented occurrences and extremely famous figures. This included records regarding the greatest human expert, Emotunyan, the winged tiger god of the beast god continent, the war god Ergens of the 100 races, and the sea goddess. Jianchen had always been extremely curious regarding the matters that had occurred between the 4 of them, so he began to flip through their information first. He looked up Emotunyan first. He wanted to learn about Emotunyan's growth. He must have had a glorious record of battles as an unparalleled legend. However, Jianchen suddenly discovered that there were no such records after flipping through them. Emotunyan's name rocked through the world when the 100 races invaded since he had fended them off. However, before the invasion, Jianchen actually found no information regarding him at all, as if he had truly emerged from a fairy tale. Also, as soon as he had appeared, his strength was unparalleled. No one was his opponent, and he was invincible. He blocked the experts of the 100 races that had forced the humans to retreat all by himself, killing many of members of the 100 races before going to outer space and guarding the Tianyuan continent as a form of deterrence. Afterward, the war god of the 100 races, Ergens, stepped into outer space with his golden battle axe. His battle intent flooded the world, causing the sky to shatter. He was embroiled in a grand battle with Tianyun. During that battle, both the heaven and earth cracked. The entire continent shook and lost a tenth of its area, transforming into the sea. In the end, Ergens retreated in defeat. During that age, the world was chaotic. Saint emperors emerged one after another, while the humans, magical beasts, and members of the 100 races warred constantly. There were countless casualties. The 100 races originally inhabited the beast god continent, before they were chased out by the winged tiger god and the experts of the magical beasts. That was how the ancient war began. The 100 races first retaliated against the magical beasts, and after no success, they turned to the humans. They wanted to occupy the Tianyuan continent, but they were all stopped by Tianyun. Ergens clashed with Tianyun many times, and the last time they fought was at the center of the continent. It was the most intense battle. Tianyun displayed his vast abilities while Ergens used his great mysteries of war. The pressure was so great that even Saint Emperors could not withstand it, forcing them to retreat over 10,000 kilometers away. However, the battle ended extremely quickly as well. The moment it began, Ergens tried to retreat in defeat once more. He suffered unprecedented injuries, never daring to step upon the Tianyuan continent again. A bottomless pit had formed below their battleground, and Tianyun used his abilities to move the earth, filling it in. He founded Mercenary City there. Jianchen gasped inside as he read up to that point. The moment Tianyun injured the war god, he had suffered unprecedented injuries. Just how great was he? Jianchen even seemed to be able to imagine Tianyun standing in a heroic posture as his white robes ruffled in the wind. The bottomless pit definitely is the tunnel to the world of forsaken saints, Jianchen murmured as he held onto the book. He continued to browse through it. After retreating from the battle with Tianyun, the 100 races did not give up. The war god then led his clansmen to attack the magical beasts again, leading to great casualties on both sides. After several battles, the war god was slain by the winged tiger god in the end. Golden blood splattered across the earth. From then on, the 4 supreme experts of the ancient times turned into 3. It was rumored that the war god's body would not rot even though he had died. It would exist forever, so the experts of the 100 races retrieved it along with the war god's blood. They wanted to use an absolute technique to revive him. But, in the end, the winged tiger god descended and took away the war god's corpse, interfering with their plan of revival. He used his great abilities to seal the war god's corpse into a bleak continent, and the war between the 3 races ended there. Tianyun became the city lord of Mercenary City and faded from the center of attention over the next few decades. Afterward, he vanished, only leaving behind one message. He had already secretly struck an agreement with the winged tiger god. The Tianyuan continent and the beast god continent would never go to war against each other. Obviously, the ancient winged tiger god became the god among magical beasts, leading the entire race. 100 years later, a phenomenon occurred on Dragon Island and the winged tiger god also disappeared with the divine Phoenix clan and Dragon clan. No one knew where they vanished to, forming an unsolvable mystery. Jianchen did not find any information regarding the winged tiger god's life in ancient times. It seemed to have appeared out of nowhere, possessing supreme strength as soon as it had appeared. It was unlike the white tiger, who was known throughout the world before it had even matured. At that time, the war between the 3 races had yet to erupt. The magical beasts inhabited the same continent as the humans. The current Cross Mountains was the location where the magical beasts lived. As soon as the winged tiger god appeared, it led the magical beasts out of Cross Mountains to the beast god continent where they drove the 100 races away. This led to the war between the 3 races. Afterward, Jianchen checked on the records regarding the war god Ergens. They said that he was born into an ordinary farmer's family, and golden blood was discovered as soon as he was born. He also possessed great strength, virtually the same as Tai Ta in his youth. Soon after, all the hall elders of the 100 races gathered. They invited the young Ergens to the great war god hall excitedly and courteously. After that, there was no sound of him. This lasted for 500 years. Then, Ergens emerged from the war god hall. At that time, he had already surpassed Saint Emperor. He grew at a stunning rate where his name rang through the world. As soon as he emerged, he became the leader of the war god Hall. Afterward, Jian Chen checked up on the sea goddess. Perhaps due to the fact that the sea race was the only race that did not take part in the war, there was even less information regarding her, just a few lines. Jian Chen then found a record regarding the beast god Hall. It mentioned that on the 99th floor of the hall was the first winged tiger god's legacy. Only magical beasts with the bloodline of the winged tiger god could enter and obtain it, though no one knew whether it was actually true or not. Very soon, Jian Chen found another ancient record regarding the Arctic ice goddess Hall. It reported the organization as mysterious and powerful and that it had always remained in the Arctic. The ice goddess Hall had existed for an extremely long time. The first Saint Emperor of the clan had once written that in ancient times, before the 10 protector clans had existed, before the war between the 3 races had erupted, the ice goddess Hall had quietly stood in the Arctic for countless years. In the eyes of the ancient protector clans, the Arctic ice goddess Hall was a powerful and mysterious force. They never moved on the Tianyuan continent, nor did they interfere with any conflict on the continent. Even when intense battles erupted during the War of the 3 Races, the ice goddess Hall continued to act as it wished, remaining in the Arctic. If the ice goddess Hall was weak, then so be it. However, Jian Chen had also found the messages from many previous Saint Emperors to never provoke the ice goddess Hall. Jian Chen sat on the ground as he slowly flipped through the ancient record regarding the ice goddess Hall. He reached the end very quickly, which suddenly made him narrow his mind. He discovered at the end of all that was a newly scribed paragraph. The Arctic ice goddess Hall descended on Lore City on the XXX of XXX, year XXX. Snow filled the skies, summer turned to winter, and ice sealed up a radius of 10,000 kilometers. The information near the end included records of the Holy Maiden of the Ice Goddess Hall, Changyang Mingyue. It included when she was born, what she went through as she grew up, and so on. Jian Chen slowly closed the book as he constantly thought about the Ice Goddess Hall. It was just a pity that the records did not contain many details about the origins of the Ice Goddess Hall, shrouding it in mystery. Just what kind of an organization are you? Jian Chen was filled with suspicion inside. He knew from the records that for all the years the Ice Goddess Hall had existed, it had only descended once, and it was for his sister, Changyang Mingyue. Since both Mo Tianyun and the winged tiger god of the ancient times were born on the Tianyuan continent, why is there no record of you two growing up at all? Has it all been forcefully erased? Jian Chen pondered. Out of the 4 supreme experts of the ancient times, the war god died in battle. The sea goddess passed away due to age and now exists in the form of a soul because of the winged tiger god's kindness, yet the winged tiger god who is powerful enough to help the sea goddess has disappeared with the dragon and phoenix clans. And the winged tiger god disappeared at a similar time to Senior Mo Tianyun. Did the 2 of you disappear at the same time? Did you 2 really die? Or did you go to another place as described by Shaoling? Mysteries blossomed in Jian Chen's head at that moment. Dragon Island was occupied by magical beasts. It was the territory of the winged tiger god. In ancient times, the Yinyang Saint Rock fell on Dragon Island, and then it was moved through the void to a distant region of space by Mo Tianyun and his powerful formations. Afterward, Dragon Island underwent a great change, while the winged tiger god, the dragon clan, the Phoenix clan, and Mo Tianyun vanished without any news, causing many people to believe that they all died. In that world created by the Yinyang Saint Rock, the sliver of consciousness left behind by Mo Tianyun recognized the sword spirits. Therefore, it's extremely likely that Senior Mo Tianyun came from the same world as the sword spirits. Jian Chen deduced inside. Afterward, his eyes widened and an audacious possibility crossed his mind. Maybe Mo Tianyun did not die, and the winged tiger god did not die either. They just had some unknown connection, leaving behind the sea goddess while they disappeared themselves, maybe leaving for another place as companions. Chapter 1087, Comprehending the Great Divination Technique, and the 10 protector clans of the Tianyuan continent all have an emperor armament similar to the one in the Changyang clan. They've all been passed down since the ancient times, left behind by their ancestors. Jian-Chen learned many secrets from the records. Afterward, Jian-Chen checked on some comprehensions and experiences for cultivation left behind by some seniors. He left after staying there for 2 days. Although they were invaluable, equivalent to someone's legacy, they were mostly of no help to him. All they provided him with was some information that he could draw on, broadening his understanding. In the end, Jian-Chen visited the section where the battle skills and cultivation methods were stored. He discovered several dozen heaven-tier battle skills and cultivation methods, as well as a few saint-tier cultivation methods sealed by a force and a few stone carvings of saint-tier battle skills. Jian-Chen pulled out a brush and ink from his space ring and copied down a few heaven-tier battle skills and cultivation methods before leaving the library. Although they were useless to him, they were invaluable to the Changyang clan in Lore City and the Flame Mercenaries. Jian-Chen did not bother with the saint-tier cultivation techniques. They were sealed up by an ancient secret technique and could only be unlocked with a corresponding method. He could not read them at all. On the other hand, the saint-tier battle skills were carved into stone tablets and required comprehension. Unless he could take the tablets away, there was no method of transcribing their content. The section containing the ancient secret techniques was enveloped by a layer of the Divine Hall's powerful energy. It had basically become an independent world, so Jian-Chen could not enter even though he was interested. Jian-Chen returned to the discussion hall of the Divine Hall after emerging from the library. He then proceeded to Changyang Zhu Yunxiao to hear about Huang Luan. My great-grandson, Qing Yun, has yet to come out. He probably hasn't removed the ancient secret technique completely. After all, any secret technique that affects the soul is relatively difficult to deal with. Any carelessness can lead to severe consequences. Just wait for a few more days. You cannot hurry this, sighed Changyang Zhu Yunxiao. Helpless, Jian-Chen could only remain in the Protector clan. During that time, he paced about outside the room, but he could not check on the situation inside at all. His presence still could not pass through the walls of the Divine Hall. Jian-Chen found an empty room and planned to go into seclusion for a few days due to boredom. In a room with only a ray of light, Jian-Chen sat on the ground. With a flip of his hand, he pulled out the Octaterra Divine Hall from his space ring. Divine Halls could only be created by Saint Emperors, and they would fuse in their comprehension of space. This was why Divine Halls could shrink and expand. It currently stood in Jian-Chen's hand as the size of a fist. The Divine Hall's been reduced to ruins by Kaiser of the Beast God continent. Its power is still circulating inside, currently recovering automatically, but it'll probably take a very long time at this rate. Jian-Chen stared at the ruined Divine Hall as he felt pity inside. 2 jade-white, glistening skeletons of Saint Emperors sat in the Divine Hall. They were left behind by the second and third masters of the Octaterra Divine Hall. Each skeleton hid extremely pure energy, and Jian-Chen could even vaguely feel a vast and profound presence in each skeleton. They were the mysteries of the world, having fused perfectly with the pure energy within. Jian-Chen understood that absorbing the energy within the skeletons would also lead to the comprehension of the mysteries of the world that was in the energy. However, the comprehension would depend on luck and ability. These 2 skeletons are treasures that cannot be purchased with money, especially on this continent. If a Saint Emperor skeleton appeared, probably even the Protector clans wouldn't be able to sit still. They'll definitely go and try take it for themselves, murmured Jian-Chen. He knew the value of the skeletons extremely well. The energy required for the 4th layer of the chaotic body is much more than the 3rd. Even if I absorb both skeletons, it won't be enough for me to reach the 4th layer. At the same time, I cannot reach Saint King with my comprehension, so the mysteries of the world would be wasted for nothing. If I give it to Ming Dong or great-grandfather Bai Hai, their strength will definitely skyrocket and reach Saint King in the shortest time possible. That's the best way to use the Saint Emperor skeletons. Jian-Chen put the Divine Hall away. He did not plan on using the skeletons for himself. Jian-Chen then pulled out an ancient book from his space ring. It was the great divination technique he had obtained from Old Man Sidhu all those years ago. The great divination technique was known as a book of a way to the sword spirits. It belonged to the way of divination. It was an extremely special and obscure way that was very difficult to comprehend, and incredibly few people would comprehend it. However, its wonder and uniqueness was beyond imagination. It could predict the future, show the truths of the world, perceive the mysteries of the universe, and exhibit the origin of everything. Jianchen opened the book and began reading it diligently. He was very interested in this book of a way that could forecast the future. The method to practice the great divination technique was not recorded in words. Instead, it was constructed from a few simple-looking but profound lines and images. The lines and images seemed to fuse with the world and the ways. Although they were simple, they gave people a feeling of possessing everything. The shape and trajectory of every line and image seemed to demonstrate the beginning of the universe. Jianchen became deeply drawn in very soon, submerged in the mysteries of the great divination technique. At that moment, Jianchen seemed to see a limitless universe, and he also seemed to see a world of chaos. He seemed to see the birth of the universe as well, and in a daze, he seemed to understand something, yet he understood nothing. It was intangible, where he could not grasp it even when he tried. The great divine technique was extremely profound. With just a few lines, it drew Jianchen's conscience to a different world. In the blink of an eye, half a month passed. Jianchen remained in the room, comprehending the great divination technique. He was deeply submerged into it, where he did not stir even once. During this period of time, Changyang Zhu Yunshao and Changyang Zhu Shao visited him many times. Seeing how he was cultivating, they did not disturb him and silently left. In another room of the divine hall, the ruddy, sage-like Changyang Qin Yun sat with Huang Luan. Both of them had their eyes closed and were completely serious. Changyang Qin Yun's finger remained planted between Huang Luan's eyebrows. Powerful pulses of energy were emitted from the tip of the finger as the profound presence of the mysteries of the world and a desolate, mysterious presence surged into Huang Luan's forehead. Suddenly, Changyang Qin Yun snapped open his eyes. An odd gleam appeared in his eyes as they were widely opened. They seemed fierce. Break! Changyang Qin Yun bellowed and used an ancient secret technique with his strength at the great perfection of Saint King. The two presences stabbed into the center of Huang Luan's eyebrows like a sword, forcing out the seal on Huang Luan's soul. Afterward, the mysterious, desolate presence immediately surrounded it. Using the void soul transcendence, it burned the seal planted on Huang Luan's soul into nothingness. Now that the seal on Huang Luan was removed, Changyang Qin Yun could not help but deeply exhale. He softly sighed, "I finally removed that seal after so much effort." But soon after speaking, a sinister smile appeared on his face. He seemed to be fiendish, conflicting with his sagely appearance. "I can't just help you remove this ancient secret technique for nothing. There has to be something in it for me as well." Changyang Qin Yun bit the tip of his tongue and drew out a droplet of essence blood. Forming a seal with his hands, he used an ancient secret technique to refine the blood, which then entered between Huang Luan's eyebrows in the form of a wisp. It fused with her soul, becoming a part of her soul. Huang Luan felt nothing with her eyes closed. She had fallen unconscious long ago, losing all sense of the outside world. After all that, Changyang Qin Yun smiled when he succeeded. However, he returned to how he acted before very quickly. He gently extended a finger to Huang Luan's forehead again and woke her up. Huang Luan slowly opened her eyes. She looked at Changyang Qin Yun in confusion first, but a gleam of light flashed through her eyes soon after. She politely asked, "Senior, may I ask if the ancient secret technique has been removed?" Changyang Qin Yun smiled amicably. His smile was filled with benevolence as he slowly said, "It's been removed successfully. Girl, you don't need to worry about it anymore." "Thank you, Senior." Huang Luan rejoiced and immediately thanked Changyang Qin Yun after standing up. Jianchen quickly learned about how Huang Luan's seal was removed. He immediately stopped his comprehension of the great divination technique to meet up with her. The great divination technique really was profound. Even though Jianchen had entered such a wondrous state, he had still failed to comprehend the technique. However, he did seem to vaguely understand some of the laws within the technique. Huang Yuan sweetly smiled to Jianchen in the hall. Jianchen, the ancient secret technique planted on my soul has finally been removed. Rejoicing, Jianchen wholeheartedly thanked Changyang Qingyun. After talking a little more, he bid farewell to everyone. He wanted to leave the Protector clan. Xiangtian, you're leaving so soon. Why don't you stay for a few more days? Changyang Qingyun urged. I still have matters to attend to, so I don't have much time on hand, said Jianchen. Go deal with your important matters first since you need to attend to them. Though, do come back and visit the clan whenever you have time. Changyang Zhu Yunshao and Changyang Zhu Shao walked in from outside. They spoke for Jianchen. Changyang Qingyun became hesitant. He said in the end, Xiangtian, since you have matters at hand, you should go. Though, we do hope you can leave the winged tiger god with the clan. We will use everything we have to raise it and provide it with an even greater space to grow in. Jianchen's expression changed slightly. He did not think that the Changyang clan would still be thinking of the winged tiger god and that they would try to take it right now. I thank you on Xiaobai's behalf, Elder Qin Yun. However, Xiaobai doesn't need any assistance in any aspects right now. Jianchen declined without any hesitation. The Changyang clan had existed for over 1,000,000 years. They possessed countless ancient secret techniques, so he worried that they would use one of them to control Xiaobai if he left the white tiger here or do detrimental things to the white tiger. Chapter 1088, Geihai Dao 1. Xiangtian, you're now a great elder of our clan. You must consider the clan in anything and everything you do. I hope you can consider the future of the clan. If the winged tiger god is raised as the guardian beast of our clan, our strength will instantaneously surpass the 9 other clans. Of course, if you let the winged tiger god successfully mature under the 2 great magical beast experts, there's a great possibility that it will bring disaster to the continent. Do you really want to be condemned by the entire continent for all of eternity? Changyang Qingyun sternly argued. Elder Qingyun, I am very grateful that you removed the seal within Luaner, but there is no room for discussion in regards to the winged tiger god, Jianchen flatly replied. The clan takes priority over everything, Changyang Xiangtian. If you're unwilling to leave behind the winged tiger god, we won't make it difficult for you. However, I do hope your fiancé can move the Bright Moon Divine Hall into our clan from outer space, so many more female descendants of the clan can enter the Divine Hall to cultivate and thus strengthen our clan. Changyang Qingjuri and Changyang Qingyunfeng walked in from outside. The speaker was Changyang Qingjuri. He still had his sights set on the Bright Moon Divine Hall. Changyang Zhu Yunshao and Changyang Zhu Shao looked at one another, and they frowned slightly. They became troubled. Jianchen's face grew cold. Yuera needs to absorb moonlight force to cultivate. The Divine Hall can only gather moonlight force at a faster rate in outer space, so if it's moved into this independent space, it'll definitely affect Yuera cultivation greatly, and if you want to cultivate by absorbing moonlight force, you need to have Fairy How use cultivation method and a special constitution. Even if you send the female clansmen into the Divine Hall, they can't absorb moonlight force. All the high-tier battle skills and cultivation methods obtained by ancestors have been stored in the library of the clan so that our heritage deepens. Jianchen, you're also a great elder of the clan, so can't you think of the future of the clan? Changyang Qingjuri spoke to Jianchen with an ordinary tone. He seemed like he was discussing something simple with Jianchen. Jianchen sneered, and his eyes suddenly narrowed. A pressing coldness constantly flickered in his eyes as he called out, Changyang Qingjuri, are you forcing me to do that? Jianchen referred to Changyang Qingjuri by his name. He was furious, so he showed no respect. Changyang Qingjuri stared blankly at how Jianchen behaved, where he wanted to fight as soon as there was a disagreement. A sliver of cold light flickered in the depths of his eyes, and he said with a deep voice, Changyang Xiangtian, this is the rules of the clan. All predecessors have abided by them. Do you plan on breaking them? Jury, enough. Xiangtian's only just returned to the clan. He hasn't adapted to the rules, so let's not talk about the winged tiger god and bright moon divine hall for now. Changyang Qingyun mediated. He knew that forcing Jianchen to do things he did not want to do with his stubborn personality would probably lead to blunders. Changyang Qingjuri, Do you really think that I, Jian Qin, really care about the position of a great elder? If it weren't for my great-grandfather, I definitely would not have taken up the position. I hope none of you mention requests that go overboard in the future, or don't blame me for disrespecting my elders, Jian Qin coldly said. Even though he was in a protector clan right now, he felt no fear. Luaner, let's go. Throwing that down, Jian Qin strode toward the exit of the clan with Huang Luan. He paid no attention to Changyang Qing Yun and the others who had already paled. Everyone, let's not go overboard with Xiang Tian. He's no ordinary clansman. We got him to join the protector clan after much difficulty, so if we end up chasing him away, only we will be in for the loss, Changyang Zhu Yunshao grumbled. He seemed extremely displeased. Think about the matters with Flame City. Back then, when the 10 protector clans appeared at the same time to stop Jian Qin, everyone still ended up helpless in the end, added Changyang Zhu Shao, before leaving with Changyang Zhu Yunshao. Jian Qin and Huang Luan left the protector clan accompanied by Changyang Zhu Yunshao and Changyang Zhu Shao. As they traveled to the exit, the two great elders constantly comforted Jian Qin and also put in good words about the protector clan. My great-grandson, don't let Elder Qin Yun and Jury get to your mind. The clan's rules are indeed like that, so they're just considering the clan's future, Changyang Zhu Yunshao explained. Jian Qin did not want to dwell on the matter anymore, so he said to Changyang Zhu Yunshao, I want to know about the strength and location of the Yama Hall. The Yama Hall. Changyang Zhu Yunshao slightly frowned. After a while of thought, he said, that's an organization that has existed on the continent for over 100,000 years. Their strength is quite impressive, much stronger than ordinary ancient clans. The leader of the organization was a saint king at the 8th heavenly layer 1,000 years ago, but he was heavily injured by the sect master of the Bloodsword sect, Houston. He was at death's door, but now that a whole millennium has passed, I wonder if the former Yama has recovered. Other than the former Yama, who is the most powerful, there are two other saint kings. One of them is the current Yama while the other is the spectral elder. Their strengths are unknown, and the organization is set up in a divine hall. It often moves around, so even if you use everything you have to look for them, it's extremely difficult to find where they are in a short amount of time. Jian Qin learned some information regarding the assassination organization from Changyang Zhu Yunshao before bidding farewell to them. He directly proceeded to the sea realm through a space gate constructed by Changyang Zhu Yunshao. Jian Qin and Huang Luan appeared above a boundless ocean, heading to where the sea race was after determining their orientation. Suddenly, the sunny sky darkened in an instant. A thick layer of clouds gathered at a shocking rate, blotting out the sky. The clouds radiated with light of 7 colors. Someone's reaching Saint King. Both Jian Qin and Huang Luan became stunned. Jian Qin stared at the rainbow clouds in the sky as he murmured, from today on, there would be one more Saint King. On a desolate little island several tens of thousand kilometers away from Jian Qin, a bare-chested, middle-aged man in shorts sat on the ground. The profound presence of the mysteries of the world constantly radiated from him as the surrounding space violently shook so much that it was warping. It blurred the man's figure. In the independent space inhabited by the Tyrant's Blade School, 100-meter-tall, glistening machete stood in a valley protected by multiple powerful formations. It possessed a devastating might as it radiated with a bright glow. Suddenly, the machete began to tremble slightly even though it had stood there without moving for a very long time. Something seemed to have awakened within the blade, causing it to radiate with a vast pressure. It constantly increased, reaching an unbelievable level in the blink of an eye. An extremely powerful energy fluctuated within the machete. It usually never stirred, yet it began to flow slowly at this moment. Bang, bang, bang. The powerful formations in the surroundings that trapped the machete all exploded. The clear resonance of the blade rang through the entire space, and then the machete turned into a silver blob. It ripped through space and vanished from the independent world. Shit! The Emperor armaments run away. A panic-stricken and terrified cry suddenly rang out at almost the same time the machete had disappeared. 6 people of varying ages fused with the surrounding space, arriving where the machete was in a single step. All 6 of them were great elders of the tyrant's blade school. Fear and disbelief had flooded all of their faces right now. What's happened? It was all fine, so how could the Emperor armament run off without any reason? This has never appeared in the records, so in other words, this is the first time something like this has happened in all of history. The Emperor armament is the treasure of our tyrant's blade school. We can't afford to lose it. We need to get it back. The Emperor armament ties into the heritage of the tyrant's blade school. No matter how great the price is, we have to get it back. The great elders all became extremely stern as they panicked inside. They immediately opened the world gate to the outside world and used a secret technique to sense where the Emperor armament was. They chased after it. In the vast ocean, the 7-colored rainbow clouds flooded the sky. The burly, middle-aged man remained with his eyes closed as he sat on the desolate island. At this moment, an extremely terrifying energy appeared boldly from the horizon. A streak of dazzling white light cut through the sky, traveling straight for the middle-aged man with unbelievable speed. Jian Chen sensed the extremely powerful energy ripple immediately from several tens of thousand kilometers away. He immediately became astounded and hoarsely said, "An Emperor armament. This is the presence of an Emperor armament. What terrifying pulses of energy. It gives me the feeling that I'm faced up against a Saint Emperor. It's a mere weapon, yet it possesses such terrifying might. Is it an Emperor armament of a protector clan?" Jian Chen hesitated for a moment before hurrying over quickly with Huang Luan. The blinding white light descended onto the island, stopping above the middle-aged man's head. It transformed into a 1.5-meter-long machete. The blade hovered gently as it enveloped the man with a dazzling glow. The man seemed to sense nothing as he remained seated there. The space near the island ripped open and formed a 5-colored space gate. The great elders of the tyrant's blade school charged out from inside, arriving on the island. As they ran through the air, they surrounded the middle-aged man, who was in the middle of his breakthrough. They were all filled with shock. Chapter 1089, Gehai Dao 2. This is the Emperor armament that has existed in our tyrant's blade school for more than 1,000,000 years. Can anyone give me an explanation on what is happening? A great elder said in shock as disbelief filled his face. Who is this person? Why is the Emperor armament of our school so close with him? This has never happened before. Has the Emperor armament come out just for this person? The great elders of the tyrant's blade school were all frightened. The Emperor armament was just too important to the Protector clan. They could not afford to lose it. They all felt very uneasy when they saw how the Emperor armament was floating so close to an outsider. The Emperor armament was left behind by our founding ancestor. No one has been able to control it in all these years, yet the Emperor armament's behaving in such a strange way now. Has it been controlled by an outsider? The Emperor armament cannot fall into the hands of outsiders. If it really reaches that point, we'll kill this person, an older great elder sternly said. His voice was filled with killing intent. Let me retrieve the Emperor armament. One of the middle-aged men took a step forward. His hand was protected by a thick layer of Saint Force and World Force as he grabbed at the hilt. However, as soon as his hand approached the glow of the Emperor armament, blood was thrown into the air. His hand was reduced to a bloody mess. If he had not pulled it back so quickly, his hand would probably have been destroyed. Impossible. I've actually been injured by the Emperor armament, and this isn't because of the backlash from the Emperor armament. The man stared at his bloody hand. He felt astounded. The other great elders of the tyrant's blade school were all shocked as well. They struggled to believe what had just happened. When they touched the Emperor armament before, they would only suffer a backlash from the great power of the Emperor armament. This was the first time an injury from the Emperor armament had occurred. The great elders did not understand what was happening to the Emperor armament, but they could not approach it. As a result, all they could do was stand there and slowly wait. Jian Chen and Huang Luan approached the island very quickly. They saw what was happening there clearly. Jian Chen recognized the weapon as an Emperor armament of a Protector clan, so he secretly raised his guard. Jian Chen, do you know what they're doing? Huang Wan leaned on Jian Chen as she asked a question out of curiosity while pointing her finger at the island. Jian Chen shook his head as he stared attentively at the emperor armament and the man who had suffered earlier. He too felt extremely curious. The great elders discovered Jian Chen as he approached them and recognized him with a single glance. A sliver of fear appeared in their eyes as they looked around cautiously before relaxing a little. Jian Chen, the Tyrant's Blade School has matters here. I hope you do not approach us just in case it leads to a misunderstanding. An elderly man clasped his hands at Jian Chen from afar. Jian Chen and Huang Wan did not get any closer, watching on from afar in amusement. So it's the Emperor Armament of the Tyrant's Blade School. By the looks of it, the Emperor Armament seems to have lost control and has come here by itself. Though, who is that person, and why has the Emperor Armament suddenly seeked him out? Jian Chen deduced inside. The great elders all formed a circle around the middle-aged man who was breaking through to prevent him from suddenly fleeing after rousing from the breakthrough. The Emperor Armament levitated above the burly man as a layer of blinding white light enveloped the man from above. This was an extremely powerful type of light, able to easily injure Saint Kings. Clearly, it was protecting the middle-aged man who was in the middle of his breakthrough. This lasted for 6 whole hours before the man completed his breakthrough. He slowly opened his eyes. In that instant, 2 bolts of lightning seemed to shoot out of his eyes. His eyes became abnormally bright, like 2 bright pearls in the dark night. All the great elders of the Tyrant's Blade School shuddered inside under the gaze of the man. At that moment, they discovered in shock that they seemed to have been seen through by the middle-aged man, as if nothing was a secret to him. The great elders all became extremely astounded. They were all people who had stepped into Saint King for many years, yet they had just been seen through by someone who had just reached Saint King. They found this unbelievable. The heavy gaze of the middle-aged man vanished very quickly and returned back to normal. His pitch-black and profound eyes seemed to contain a whole different world, as if it was a vast and boundless universe. The man slowly raised his head toward the sky and faintly smiled. He produced a deep sigh. Tian Yuan continent, Ayahai Dao, have finally returned. I never thought that the energy of the world would have become so thin after being gone for so long. The man was melancholy. He gently waved an arm and the Emperor Armament floating above him immediately and obediently flew into his hand. The glow of the blade actually failed to harm the man. I have already returned successfully. I wonder if you guys have returned. Reminiscence flooded his eyes as he stared at the sky. The great elders all witnessed what the Emperor Armament did. They felt utterly dumbfounded. The Emperor Armament had existed for so many years in the Tyrant's Blade School, yet there was no one in all of history who could wield it in such an easy fashion. Sir, who are you? In your hand is the Emperor Armament of the Tyrant's Blade School. Please return it immediately, just in case it leads to a misunderstanding, the elderly great elder said. The man leveled his gaze at the great elders around him. He said, "Are you disciples of the Tyrant's Blade School? I never thought the Tyrant's Blade School would become weaker and weaker." What did you say? The great elders' expressions all drastically changed. Their eyes narrowed, and they seemed to be ready to fight over the next disagreement. As one of the 10 protector clans of the continent, the Tyrant's Blade School was an overlord without a doubt. No one had ever dared to speak to them like that. The man smiled scornfully. "My name is Guhai Dao. I wonder if there's still anyone who remembers me after so many years." As he said that, he gently swung the Emperor Armament and cut through the space like a hot knife through butter. A space gate formed and he directly left through it. However, the landscape beyond the space gate seemed the same as the space where the Tyrant's Blade School dwelt. The great elders all stood there astounded. Disbelief flooded their faces as their hearts churned. They struggled to calm down. "Guhai Dao. Is he?" one of the great elders said with a trembling voice as shock filled his face. "Impossible, it can't be him," the great elders all involuntarily cried out. None of them were able to remain calm. "He can actually return to our independent space without going through the world gate. Let's return quickly," the elderly great elder hurriedly said as he watched the man disappear. Afterward, the great elders all split open the space and left, returning to the Protector clan as fast as they could. From afar, Jianchen stared deeply in the direction where the great elders had disappeared. A gleam of light flashed through his eyes as he began to ponder. He felt extremely curious about the middle-aged man's identity. Guihai Yidao. That person's called Guihai Yidao. Who is he? Jianchen gently murmured. However, before he could obtain an answer, he left with Huang Luan, continuing his way to the territory of the sea race. Soon, Jianchen arrived in the air above the sea realm with Huang Luan. The sea goddess illusionary figure appeared almost the moment he arrived. Your Majesty, Luaner possesses the water spirit's body. I want to leave her in the sea realm to cultivation. Jianchen clasped his hands to the sea goddess in an extremely courteous manner. The sea goddess slowly nodded. She turned her blurry face to Huang Luan. Jianchen, the secret technique that entwines your friend's fate with someone else has been removed, but another secret technique has been planted in her by someone else. What? Another person's planted a new secret technique in Huang Luan's soul? Jianchen paled in fright. He seemed to have been struck by a bolt from the blue. Huang Luan's face also began to sink. A sliver of paleness appeared on her face as she tightly clenched her fists. She remained silent. Correct, and this secret technique has been recently planted. It has completely fused with her soul, so it hides extremely deep. If it weren't for my powerful soul, probably no one would have realized it, said the sea goddess. Jianchen's face began to darken. He gnashed his teeth. Changyang Qing Yun. It must be Changyang Qing Yun, that old fox. Jianchen's face was cold as killing intent flooded him inside. Jianchen, I can sense that this secret technique cannot pose any harm to your friend for now. Leave your friend in the sea goddess hall. I'll get the hall master to think of a method and see if she can remove the seal or not. However, the secret techniques of the Protector clans are extremely profound, and those that target the soul are especially complicated. Even I am helpless before them, said the sea goddess. Jianchen clasped his hands in gratitude before leaving Huang Luan there. Jianchen, I will come and find you after I become a saint king. Huang Luan cried out as she tearfully stared at Jianchen's back. She knew that she wouldn't see Jianchen for a very long time. In the Tyrant's Blade School, the Emperor armament had been returned to the Forbidden Grounds. It was stabbed into the ground in a 100-meter-long form as it radiated with powerful blade qi. The bare-chested Guihai Yidao sat on the giant hilt with his eyes closed. The great elders returned from outside and excitedly stared at Guihai Yidao with a group of saint rulers. Are you really the founder of our Tyrant's Blade sect? The elderly great elder asked with a trembling voice. His eyes were filled with hope. So many years have passed. I didn't think you bunch of juniors would still remember me. Looks like I didn't found this school for nothing, Guihai Yidao said with his eyes closed. His voice was extremely indifferent, giving off an unfathomable feeling. The group of expects immediately rejoiced when they confirmed Guihai Yidao's identity. However, all of them were filled with endless suspicion at the same time. Founder, it's been over 1,000,000 years since that age. How is it possible for you to still be alive? A great elder asked. When I reached the end of my life, I used an absolute secret technique to seal my memories into the wave-breaking blade and threw my soul into samsara at the same time. Once the circumstances are right, my memories sealed in the wave-breaking blade will sense it and control the weapon to come find me. The weapon will return my memories, allowing me to remember my past life. I have only just recovered my memories right now. Guihai Yidao explained. Chapter 1090, Devastating the Yama Hall. 1. All the experts of the Tyrant's Blade School became utterly astounded when they heard this story that was sounded like a fairy tale. Their horizons had been broadened. The founder really is remarkable to know such a heaven-defying technique. All the experts began to curry up to him. All of them felt extremely emotional. Their founder had actually revived and could masterfully wield the Emperor armament. This was a blessing for the Protector clan. Many of them could even see a future where the Tyrant's Blade School would surpass the 9 other Protector clans. My 9 other good friends chose the same method as me to be revived. Has there been any disturbances with the 9 other protector clans lately? Gui Hai Idao questioned. Founder, it has all been peaceful with the 9 other protector clans. It's just that an unprecedented genius has appeared in the Changyang clan, reaching Saint King in less than 100 years, the elderly great elder politely replied. Gahai Dao snapped open his eyes as he thought inside. He really is an unprecedented genius to reach Saint King in less than 100 years. He would be a genius even in the saints' world. Though, I feel like he can't be that friend of mine. Gahai Dao sat in silence for a while before he then said, I've only just reached Saint King. All of you leave. I need to go into seclusion over the next period of time and recover my strength from before as soon as possible. Yes, Founder. All the experts of the Protector clan replied together before slowly leaving. Soon after that, the world gate of the Tyrant's Blade School closed, completely cutting off all connection from the Tianyuan continent. The revival of the founding ancestor was an extremely important matter to the Protector clan. To prevent it from being leaked, they sealed the entire realm, just in case there was anyone who wanted to harm the founding ancestor before he recovered his strength. A small valley that barely anyone knew about existed at the edge of the Cross Mountains. The entire valley was covered by a faint barrier, while simple and honest villagers lived their lives there. They farmed for their own food, passing their days steadily and away from worldly affairs. Today, a space gate suddenly appeared outside the barrier in the quiet little valley. The white-clothed Jianchen emerged with the black-robed Heiyu, before entering the valley. The barrier outside the valley was used to repel attacks from magical beasts, so the two of them easily passed through it. Longevity Valley seemed the same as before. Jianchen made his way down the familiar path of the village. A few farmers in the fields saw Jianchen. They greeted him enthusiastically, while Jianchen responded with a smile and some light responses. Jianchen found Uncle Xiaomi in the village spinning a new wicker basket. Half of Xiaomi's hair had already turned gray since the last time Jianchen saw him. Even his eyebrows had grayed a little. Jianchen, you finally returned. Xiaomi was not surprised at all with Jianchen's return. He stopped what he was doing, dusted off his hands, and stood up. Uncle Xiaomi, your hair. Surprise and doubt filled Jianchen's eyes as he stared at Xiaomi's white hair. Xiaomi freely smiled. It's nothing. I'm just approaching the end of my life, that's all. Jianchen's heart trembled when he heard that. He said, Uncle Xiaomi, what did you say? You're approaching the end of your life? How much more time do you have? Heaven Saint Masters only have 1,000 years of life. I've lived for more than 1,000 years already. If it weren't for the 10,000-year heavenly resources from Father, I would have died long ago. I have roughly 30 or 40 years left, Xiaomi sighed. His face became filled with indescribable melancholy. Uncle Xiaomi, don't you worry. Before that time, I will do everything I can so you can reach Saint Ruler, Jianchen sternly said. When his saint weapon had shattered back then, it was Uncle Xiaomi who had brought him to Longevity Valley, thus saving his life. He definitely could not just watch Uncle Xiaomi approach the end of his life. Xiaomi shook his head. Jianchen, I thank you for your kindness, but don't waste your efforts. I can never become a saint ruler. Impossible. That can never be the case. I will definitely find a way, Jianchen swore. Jianchen, he's congenitally incomplete. He can never reach saint ruler, Heiyu spoke from beside Jianchen. What? Congenitally incomplete? Jianchen became stunned. He asked, Uncle Xiaomi, what is this about? Xiaomi gently sighed. I need to start the story with my mother. 1,000 years ago, my mother died in the battle between the Bloodsword sect, the Yamahal, and the Underworld sect. At that time, I was still a fetus and not born. Originally, I was supposed to die in my mother's belly, but I was saved by my father in the end. Although my life was left intact, I was not born normally, so I have always been congenitally incomplete. I don't have any birth defects, but my talent is horrendous, and it can't be altered even with heavenly resources. I can't reach Saint Ruler either. My father had even once said that for me to reach Heaven Saint Master had caught him by surprise. Isn't there any other way to make up for this incompletion? Jianchen asked urgently. Xiaomi shook his head and gently smiled. Actually, everyone will face death. Even great saint emperors only have a lifespan of 10,000 years. I am only leaving first, and everyone will end up like me sooner or later. I have already gotten past death. Jianchen fell silent as he struggled to accept the situation inside. Xiaomi pulled out a divine hall from his space ring and passed it to Jianchen. He said, "Jianchen, my father has already gone into seclusion. Before he left, he specially made me give this divine hall to you. This divine hall is the foothold for the Blood Sword sect on the continent. It's controlled by the sect masters of every generation, and now that you've become the sect master, this divine hall should be yours." Jianchen accepted the divine hall as he stared at Xiaomi with mixed emotions. He solemnly said, "Uncle Xiaomi, it doesn't matter if there's no hope. I will try to find methods to help you." Xiaomi shook his head. "Jianchen, I am destined to not reach Saint Ruler, so don't waste your efforts. Now that my father doesn't have much time left either, if he departs as well, there'll only be little Fatty and his mother left. If you want to help me look after little Fatty and Shelly. Shelly used to be the young lady of a great clan. After marrying me several decades ago, she has spent her time with me in this valley that completely cuts us off from the rest of the world. It's been too hard on her." Xiaomi felt ashamed. For Xiaomi to not feel any regrets, Jianchen swore to look after little Fatty and his mother. He then asked Xiaomi where the Yama Hall was located. "Jianchen, have they offended you since you're looking for them so suddenly?" Xiaomi immediately brightened up when he heard about the Yama Hall. He stared at Jianchen in interest. "Correct," replied Jianchen. "The location of the Yama Hall is always extremely well hidden. It changes often, so they have no fixed location. However, they can't hide it from the investigators of our Bloodsword sect no matter how they try. The matters of the Bloodsword sect used to all be handled by me, so I just happen to know where they're located. 8,000 years ago, my mother died to the combined attacks of the experts from the Yama Hall and Underworld sect. I've never seen my mother's face. My father still holds extremely deep hatred for the two organizations even though he stepped away from the continent over the past few years. It's just that he swore to my mother in the past, so my father's been enduring the hatred within him and did not wipe out the two organizations. Jianchen, if it's possible, I hope you can wipe out the Yama Hall for us and take revenge for me mother." A cold light flickered in Xiaomi's eyes. "Don't worry, Uncle Xiaomi. Since you can't take revenge personally, leave it to me," Jianchen swore. After learning the location of the Yama Hall, Jianchen left Longevity Valley with Heiyu. However, Jianchen remained heavy-hearted due to Uncle Xiaomi reaching the end of his life. If he had not brought Jianchen into Longevity Valley back then, Jianchen probably would have been reduced to a cold corpse long ago. It would have been impossible for him to still be alive and attain such great accomplishments. Although he did not care about his own death at all, Jianchen did not want to watch him just die from old age. "Senior Heiyu, is there really no method for Uncle Xiaomi to reach Saint Ruler?" Jianchen asked Heiyu. Heiyu shook his head. He's congenitally deficient in his soul, so he can't comprehend the mysteries of the world. Naturally, he can't reach Saint Ruler either. Honestly, it's already extremely surprising that he could reach Heaven's Saint Master with his current circumstances. Jianchen's mood grew even heavier, and he said nothing more. Jianchen summoned Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and the White Tiger from the artifact space, before passing through a space gate to Flame City. He called all the Saint Rulers that had joined the Flame Mercenaries, only leaving behind Jetta Tai to watch over the city. Jianchen left with Rui Jin, the 5 Saint Rulers, and the others through another space gate that took them to where the Yama Hall was located. The assassins of Yama Hall had once made an attempt on Jianchen's life. They were also the murderers of Uncle Xiaomi's mother, people who owed a blood debt to Uncle Xiao's family. As a result, Jianchen needed to wipe out the Yama Hall whether it was for his own revenge or for Uncle Xiao's revenge. However, if he did it under the name of the Flame Mercenaries, it would make them even more famous. Jianchen's group of 9 along with the winged tiger god arrived through a space gate. They traveled threateningly toward the Yama Hall, and just as they arrived, the news that the Flame Mercenaries wanted to deal with the Yama Hall of the 3 great assassination organizations quickly spread through the Flame Mercenaries. The news immediately caused a very large disturbance in Flame City, before spreading like wildfire. Every single person who heard the news became astounded. Chapter 1091, Devastating the Yama Hall, 2. The Flame Mercenaries want to take on the Yama Hall. It'll be troublesome for the Yama Hall now, not necessarily. The Flame Mercenaries may be very strong, but they have only developed in the past few decades after all. On the other hand, the Yama Hall has stood on the Tianyuan continent for over 100,000 years. Their heritage is very great, so if the Flame Mercenaries want to wipe them out, it won't be easy. The Flame Mercenaries already have the capability to take on the Yama Hall. Both of them will suffer great casualties from this battle. The Flame Mercenaries has already reached into the millions. I wonder how many people they are going to mobilize. The matter about the Flame Mercenaries clashing with the Yama Hall became the center of attention for many people. Many of them discussed the news. In a desolate region of the Tianyuan continent, a pitch-black palace stood quietly in a group of mountains. The palace was covered by boulders, so even if someone flew over from above, they would struggle to notice its existence. It was extremely well hidden. The black-clothed Bai Dao sat in a room within the palace. He was pale white while an odd gleam of light flickered in his eyes, like two dancing will-o-wisps. Walls of flames connecting the floor to the ceiling of the room surrounded Bai Dao, trapping him there. Although the flames lacked any heat, they possessed a stunning force. Not only could they scorch the air, they could even melt space, causing the space around the flames to distort and warp. Brat, you've really brought disaster to me. You've actually entered the divine hall of the Yama Hall. Now we're both trapped here, Venerable Poison's Word said with a sunken face. His resentment for Bai Dao had already become bone-deep. Over the past few days of being trapped here, Venerable Poison's Word had tried many times to charge out, but every attempt was obstructed by the black flames. The flames were called demonic hellfire, and they were extremely harmful to the soul. They restrained Venerable Poison's Word, who was just a soul. I didn't think that they'd be people of the Yama Hall either, let alone the fact that this would be such a powerful divine hall, Bai Dao said with a communication technique. His voice was extremely stern. He had miscalculated, underestimating this group of murderers. Haha, descendant of the Bai family, have you thought it through? Are you going to hand over the beast fur or not? If you do, we might be able to give you a chance and spare your life. Otherwise, there will only be death. A husky voice rang from the darkness as a black-cloaked man slowly appeared outside the flame. He coldly stared at Bai Dao. Venerable Poison Sword's flickering eyes locked onto the man. He became hesitant as he thought inside, that brat's actually gotten me trapped in this divine hall, and my soul is being injured by the demonic hellfire. I don't have much power left either, so it's impossible for me to escape. There is only death. I need to find another way to survive. He finally made up his mind after hesitating. Clenching his teeth, he said, "Call the Yama of your organization. I have something to say to him." Have you finally made up your mind? I am the Yama, so go on ahead, laughed the man. Yama, I am Venerable Poison's Word who once freely wandered the continent. After facing the end of my life, I used a secret technique to protect my soul, and now I share the same body as this brat, Bai Dao. If you can assist me in taking over this body, I am willing to help your Yama Hall do 3 things. Of course, I will also hand over that beast fur you are talking about, said Venerable Poison's Word. Old bastard, you've betrayed me. Bai Dao fell into a fury as his soul immediately began to struggle. He wanted to forcefully break free of Venerable Poison Sword's restraint and regain control of his body. Venerable Poison's Word? Is it that Venerable Poison's Word who had a foot planted in Saint Emperor and clashed against a Saint Emperor 10 times without suffering defeat? The Yama became surprised, and his eyes immediately lit up. Correct, that's me. Venerable Poison's Word raised his chest and pridefully replied. His eyes flickered violently as he did everything he could to restrain Bai Dao. The Yama stared at Venerable Poison's Word for a while before coldly laughing. He said, I never thought it would actually be the infamous Venerable Poison's Word. Though, you should know that once you enter this divine hall, there's only death unless a Saint Emperor comes personally. Right now, your life is completely in my hands. If you want it back, 3 things is far from enough. Then I will do 10 things, Venerable Poison's Word said with a deep voice. No, 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 that's still not enough. Venerable, if you want to live, there is only one way, and that is to join our Yama Hall and become a protector king, chuckled the Yama. Okay, I agree. Venerable Poison's Word agreed in the end after hesitating a little. The Yama immediately began to laugh without restraint. I welcome Venerable Poison's Word for joining our Yama Hall. Before he could finish speaking, a violent boom rang from outside. The entire divine hall violently shook, and both the Yama and Venerable Poison's Word stumbled since they were completely caught off guard. They almost fell. God damn it, what's happening? The Yama's face changed, and he immediately vanished into the darkness. When he reappeared, he was on the top floor of the divine hall. Cracks had already appeared on the ceiling of the divine hall as streaks of sunlight flooded in. They illuminated the dark interior slightly. The divine hall's been broken. The Yama immediately paled in fright as he looked at the crack. He involuntarily cried out, "Has there been a Saint Emperor who has come to destroy our divine hall?" Although he was shocked, he responded extremely quickly. With a flip of his hand, a few pieces of jade appeared, and he immediately crushed all of them. Figures moved about within the divine hall, and the 10 protector kings, completely shrouded in black cloaks, appeared by the Yama's side. They stared at the cracked ceiling in shock. Outside, Jian Qin, Rui Jin, He Yu, Hong Lian, the White Tiger, and the 5 saint rulers of the flame mercenaries levitated above as they stared down at the black divine hall. He Yu wielded a machete as he radiated with a chilling pressure. It was the weapon that possessed origin energy. The 5 saint rulers stood side by side behind them. They carried a huge banner, the banner of the flame mercenaries. This divine hall's rather tough. It must have been made by an extremely powerful Saint Emperor. I'd like to see how many times it can endure my attacks though, sneered He Yu. Another powerful blade chi appeared out of nowhere and struck the divine hall, causing it to tremble violently once more. It shattered quite a few rocks in the surroundings while the cracks grew larger. May I inquire which senior has come, and why you are targeting our Yama Hall? Has our Yama Hall offended you in any way? A husky voice rang out from within, but the person did not appear. The captain of the flame mercenaries, Jian Qin, has come personally. Yama Hall, why don't you hurry up and come receive him? The saint ruler carrying the banner called out. His voice was thunderous, spreading through the surroundings. So it's Captain Jian Qin. My Yama Hall has failed to welcome you from afar, so please forgive us. However, may I ask when have we offended Captain Jian Qin? The Yama's voice rang out from within. Many years ago, I was targeted by your organization in the City of God when I moved around under the name of Yang Yutian. I've come for revenge today, Jian Qin coldly answered. Captain Jian Qin, I am the current master of the Yama Hall. I did not know about this, but I will definitely investigate the matter with everything I have. If it is true, we are willing to hand over the assassin who targeted you back then. I hope Captain Jian Qin can spare the Yama Hall, the Yama submissively replied. He had heard about Jian Qin long ago, and he knew that Jian Qin was someone that even the 10 protector clans could do nothing to. It won't be that simple. Senior He Yu, please destroy this divine hall for me, Jian Qin said coldly as dense killing intent appeared in his eyes. I've never felt what it's like to destroy a divine hall, so let me try it today. He Yu became rather excited, before flying up to the divine hall. His machete glowed with a dazzling light as he mercilessly chopped at the divine hall. Bang, bang, bang. Violent sounds constantly rang out. Every strike from He Yu was no weaker than a Saint King's attack. The divine hall quickly began to shatter under He Yu's constant attacks. The entire top portion of the divine hall was removed. The trembling of the divine hall had already alerted all the assassins within it. Many of them lost their usual composure and began to panic. The demonic hellfire on the first floor of the divine hall disappeared. Bai Dao's eyes flickered while Venerable Poison's Word remained in control. He gazed at the shaking divine hall in shock and suspicion as he murmured, "What's happening to the Yama Hall? Why is the trembling so powerful? Has an enemy come for revenge, and are they attacking the divine hall right now? He immediately became extremely emotional when he thought what could be happening. He seemed to see hope of escaping. Chapter 1092, Devastating the Yama Hall, 3. Bai Dao, you brat, how dare you place me in jeopardy, almost dooming me eternally. Once I get out, I'll let you have it real good. Don't blame me for not showing you mercy now that you've acted so heartlessly, Venerable Poison's Word viciously said. Venerable Poison's Word, aren't you going to keep the promise between us? Bai Dao coldly asked. His voice was hoarse. Keep it my ass. You've made it so difficult for me. I almost died to the Yama Hall. Your bloody promise can go to hell. Venerable Poison's Word was completely without fear now. After controlling Bai Dao's body for so long, his soul had grown much more accustomed to the body. He was very confident that he could suppress Bai Dao's resistance and thus gain full control over the body. Once I get out of here, the first thing I'll do is devour your soul and make up for the overconsumption of my soul, said Venerable Poison's Word. The two of them communicated in their consciousness, so no outsider could hear them. At this moment, the divine hall swayed once more and shook violently. It almost caused Venerable Poison's Word to lose his footing. The top portion of the divine hall had been completely destroyed, revealing the interior to the sunlight. Heiyu did not seem to want to chop the divine hall in half with a single stroke, so he currently shaved away at it stroke by stroke. Rui Jin and Hong Lian did nothing, standing coldly by Jian Chen's side. They stared coldly at the ruined divine hall. At this moment, Rui Jin and Hong Lian's eyes suddenly narrowed. Just as they were about to move, Jian Chen turned in an instant and drew the Emperor armament at the same time, stabbing out with unbelievable speed. With a boom, Jian Chen's Emperor armament collided with a black dagger that had suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Afterward, the black-robed Yama appeared there, quickly retreating with the dagger in his hand. Bright red blood sprayed from his mouth, drifting through the air in the form of mist. Your hiding technique is extremely great, but tricks like that are useless against me. Jian Chen wielded the Emperor armament as he sneered at the Yama. As soon as he said that, another 10 saint weapons appeared out of nowhere, silently stabbing at Jian Chen with a dark light. The 10 protector kings of Yama Hall had struck out at the same time. Jian Chen smiled scornfully. With a jolt of his arm, he stabbed out 10 times in an instant, and it became difficult to distinguish between what was real and false with the blurs. Every stroke cut through space, creating a small crack. They were all extremely accurate, striking the 10 saint weapons with the utmost precision. The saint weapons in the hands of the 10 protector kings suddenly shattered. They were destroyed by the Emperor armament like a hammer taken to a nut, while a small, bloody slash appeared on their necks, before quickly expanding. Not only did Jian Chen's attacks shatter their saint weapons, it even cut through their necks. Slivers of brutal chaotic force entered their heads from their neck, wiping out their souls. The 10 protector kings were killed off in a single clash with Jian Chen. 9th heavenly layer saint rulers were as weak as an ant before a 7th heavenly layer saint king. They could not even resist. Boom. Heiyu had lost interest in playing anymore. With a deafening boom, he swung out as hard as he could and split the ruined divine hall in half. All the formations within collapsed before the attack. The divine hall had been completely destroyed. Losing their greatest protection, all the assassins hiding within flew out and fled in all directions. Haha, I'm right. There really is a supreme expert who's come to seek trouble with the Yama Hall. Even the extremely tough divine hall has been destroyed. God is on my side. I'm finally free. Venerable Poison's Word laughed aloud as he charged out of the ruined divine hall. He did not stick around, joining the group of assassins as he fled into the distance as fast as he could. Senior Rui Jin, don't let them escape, or there'll be endless future troubles, Jian Chen coldly said, before charging at the Yama who had just ambushed him. Don't worry, leave it to me, Rui Jin nonchalantly replied before forming a seal with his hands. He called out, Secret technique of the Dragon Clan, Dragon's Domain. The surroundings suddenly lit up, and in that instant, the deep blue sky disappeared. The entire world became coated in a thick layer of golden light that expanded in all directions to several kilometers away with Ruijin as its center. It formed an independent world, severing the connection to the outside and thus trapping all the assassins in there. Also, a mysterious power filled the golden world, firmly trapping them all where they could not move at all. There were quite a few saint rulers hidden among the assassins that fled. Trapped by the mysterious power, they immediately began to struggle as hard as they could, but even with their strength as saint rulers, they could not break free no matter how much they tried. Yama was also affected. Although it did not immobilize him, he seemed to have sunk into quicksand, where his movements became slow. Jianchen charged toward him threateningly with the Emperor armament. With a black flicker, the weapon stabbed mercilessly toward the Yama with a destructive energy. A sliver of panic appeared in the Yama's eyes. Even at his peak, he was not Jianchen's opponent, much less now that his body was restricted, dulling all his movements. It made it even more impossible for him to block Jianchen's attacks. "Jianchen, are you really going to kill all of us? There are quite a few assassins of the Yama Hall outside. Aren't you afraid that they'll come hunting your flame mercenaries with their assassination skills?" The Yama called out in alarm, wanting Jianchen's determination to kill to waver. However, the Yama's threat did nothing. Jianchen's Emperor armament stabbed mercilessly into his chest, impaling him. Slivers of destructive, brutal chaotic force entered the Yama's body through the Emperor armament, destroying all signs of life within him as they snaked toward his soul. The Yama's body was reduced to a bloody mess before the brutal chaotic force. The violent pain caused him to shriek, and the top of his head immediately shattered. His soul had fled from his body, escaping into the distance. A gleam of light flashed through Jianchen's eyes. Controlling the surrounding space with his thoughts, he trapped the Yama's soul so that he could not flee. The Yama was a saint king, but he was extremely weak as a soul. He could not break free from the space frozen by Jianchen with Jianchen's comprehension at the 9th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. The Yama's body fell out of the sky. With his sharp eyes and quick hands, Jianchen immediately removed the space ring from the Yama's finger before quickly checking it. A while later, Jianchen's face lit up in joy. He pulled out a rock with a radius of half a meter from the space ring and involuntarily smiled without restraint. "Ha, this trip was not a waste. I've finally found the Heaven's Soul Stone." Jianchen felt extremely excited after obtaining the rock. He felt several hundred times more excited over this than wiping out the Yama Hall since he needed to find fewer and fewer materials for the azulate swords now. The Yama's soul immediately understood that the rock was extremely important to Jianchen when he saw how Jianchen rejoiced after obtaining it. He immediately used a communication technique on Jianchen. "Captain Jianchen, I can tell you where this rock comes from if you let me go." Jianchen stared blankly as he pointed the glowing Emperor armament at the Yama's soul. With dense killing intent in his eyes, he coldly said, "Speak. Where does this rock come from? I will tell you if you agree to let me go. Otherwise, I won't say anything even if you kill me." The Yama replied with no room for disagreement. "If you don't talk, I'll wipe out your soul right now and then learn this from another person." The killing intent in Jianchen's eyes deepened while the terrifying energy from the Emperor armament ripped through space. It seemed to be trying to suck the Yama's soul into the void. Sensing Jianchen's killing intent, the Yama knew that Jianchen was not joking. Making up his mind, he decided he might as well tell him and said, "This rock comes from the Wasteland Continent." "The Wasteland Continent? Isn't that the place the 100 races inhabit?" Jianchen whispered inside before swinging his hand. The Emperor armament cleaved through the Yama's soul, wiping it out. The master of the Yama Hall disappeared from the world just like this with his strength at the 4th heavenly layer of Saint King. Jianchen rejoined Heiyu, Ruijin, and the others with the Emperor armament dripping with Saint King blood. He coldly stared at the assassins from the Yama Hall trapped in the dragon's domain. He then turned to the 5 saint rulers that had followed along. He said, "Kill all those here without mercy." "Yes, Captain," the saint rulers replied in unison. They were all extremely polite. They immediately charged toward the cloaked people, killing the assassins below Saint Ruler at leisure. Down below, Venerable Poison's word in Bai Dao's body was immobilized by the mysterious force within the dragon's domain. He immediately began to panic when he saw that the group of experts who had destroyed the Divine Hall had begun killing off the assassins. He called out, "Seniors, I am not a member of the Yama Hall. I was trapped in there until you came along and destroyed the Yama Hall. That was how I managed to break free. Please spare me, seniors." Venerable Poison's word meekly begged the people who had easily destroyed the Divine Hall for his life. Even with his former strength, he would not dare to offend them, much less now. Chapter 1093. Saving Bai Dao. Venerable Poison's word in Bai Dao's body mixed in with the group of assassins. Coupled with the fact that Bai Dao also wore long, black robes, he did not attract Jian Chen or the others' attention until he spoke. Jian Chen and Rui Jin turned to Venerable Poison's word at the same time. Rui Jin's expression remained the same as before, but Jian Chen's eyes suddenly narrowed. He blankly stared at Venerable Poison's word as his expression changed very quickly. Even after so many years, Jian Chen was still able to recognize Bai Dao. Bai Dao was his mother's brother as well as his uncle by blood. He would never forget one of his few relatives. "Uncle!" Jian Chen cried out in surprise, immediately flying toward him. A sliver of amazement crossed over Rui Jin and Hong Lian's faces when they heard what Jian Chen said. They followed Jian Chen. Venerable Poison's word had obviously heard Jian Chen's cry as well, which stunned him. He became rather puzzled. "Xiangtian, it's actually Xiangtian. He's actually Xiangtian." Bai Dao's soul began to violently pulse, no longer as calm as it was before. "Xiangtian? What Xiangtian? Brat, you recognize these people?" Venerable Poison's word jumped inside as he felt an ill omen. At this moment, Venerable Poison's word could feel the mysterious power immobilizing him disappear. He had regained his freedom, but he dared not flee. Any attempts of resistance and escape before an expert like this were futile. "He's my nephew." Venerable Poison's word, "I'd like to see how you kill me now." Bai Dao gnashed his teeth. He began to violently struggle in attempt to regain control over his body. "What? Your nephew?" Venerable Poison's word paled in fright. He worked hard to suppress Bai Dao's soul as his heart churned. "That's completely impossible, you brat. Your nephew cannot be older than you, and you're not even 100 years old. How can you have such a powerful nephew? Bai Dao, do you really think that I'm a kid you can trick?" Venerable Poison's word loudly voiced his thoughts, but he was not confident with what he was thinking at all. Jian Chen's call of uncle was already perfect evidence. Jian Chen had arrived by Venerable Poisonsword's side. He stared at Venerable Poison's word in shock, and just when he wanted to speak, he seemed to sense something. His expression changed as his eyes suddenly narrowed. He called out, "You're not my uncle. Or you?" Venerable Poisonsword's body shook as he became uneasy. However, it was already too late for him to make up for what he did, so he shamelessly said, "Nephew, I'm your uncle. Don't you even recognize your uncle Bai Dao anymore?" Jian Chen sharply glared at him, before he pointed the Emperor armament in his hand at Venerable Poison's word, radiating with an aura of destruction. He called out, "You still want to lie? Speak, who are you?" A powerful killing intent began to surge from Jian Chen. Venerable Poisonsword's heart shivered when he saw how Jian Chen did not fall for his trick. Rui Jin and Hong Lian arrived by Jian Chen's side. Their eyes flashed with gleams of light as they stared fixedly at Venerable Poison's word. "Jian Chen, this body has two souls. Someone is forcefully suppressing the soul of the original owner and, hence, controlling the body." Rui Jin explained. Jian Chen's expression changed, and he yelled at Venerable Poison's word, "Leave my uncle's body at once, or I'll wipe you out." Venerable Poisonsword's expression changed as well. He said, "Your uncle is still alive. I've fused with your uncle's soul right now, so if you kill me, your uncle will die as well." Jian Chen's heart sank. If Bai Dao had suffered any physical damage, there were many ways to heal it regardless of how heavy it was. However, matters would become extremely annoying when they were related to the soul. He still hasn't gained full control over the body, so he's still not the owner of it. I have ways to deal with him, Hong Lian suddenly informed them. She extended a finger toward Bai Dao's chest and stabbed into his heart, removing a droplet of dark red essence blood. At the same time, a ball of white flames appeared out of nowhere in Hong Lian's left hand. With a flick of her right hand, Bai Dao's essence blood shot into the white flames. The flames turned a red-white as soon as the essence blood entered, and with a wave of her left hand, the flames immediately surged toward Bai Dao's body. Although it was just a small ball of flames, the flames spread very quickly once they touched Bai Dao. They encased him with a bright surging fire. Arg! Venerable Poison's word immediately shrieked out in pain under the scorching of the fire. The flames produced no ordinary fire, they were extremely harmful to the soul, where even someone like Venerable Poison's word could not resist. Hong Lian casually spoke when she saw Jian Chen's worried expression. Don't worry, your uncle's essence blood has already been fused into the flames by me. It cannot harm your uncle at all and will only target objects that do not belong to your uncle. Using it to deal with that foreign soul in your uncle's body is extremely suitable for the situation. Jian Chen immediately stopped worrying when he heard her explanation. The flames rolled around Bai Dao's body. Although they did not give off any heat, there was no doubting their strength. The marks left behind by Venerable Poison's word in Bai Dao's body were slowly burned away. Venerable Poison Sword's shrieks became more and more painful and more chilling. Enduring the scorching, he no longer had any extra strength to suppress Bai Dao's soul, allowing Bai Dao to regain control over his own body once again. Venerable Poison Sword's shrieks also became pulses of a soul in Bai Dao's head. You old bastard, didn't you want to devour my soul before? Let's see who will be devouring whose soul now. Bai Dao was not a weakling. Without even talking to his nephew, he immediately began to devour Venerable Poison Sword's soul instead. Originally, it would have been impossible for Bai Dao to devour the soul of a saint king at great perfection with his powers, but Venerable Poison Sword's soul had become extremely weak under the scorching of the flames. Since his soul was also in Bai Dao's head, Bai Dao was provided with this rare opportunity to devour the soul. However, Bai Dao's current strength was just too low. His appetite was nowhere great, so Bai Dao reached his limit as soon as he devoured a tiny portion. Venerable Poison's word was still a saint king at great perfection, even though his soul had become extremely weak. It was impossible for Bai Dao to devour it all in a short amount of time. The flames that burned Venerable Poison Sword's soul gradually subsided, and his soul stopped shrieking. All that was left was a gray pearl floating in Bai Dao's head. It was filled with the presence of the mysteries of the world and the dense power of a soul. That foreign soul that's taken over his body has been wiped out. As long as a small portion of the soul remains in your uncle's body, the comprehensions of the mysteries of the world in the foreign soul will remain because of the wonders of my fire and the environment. So if your uncle can absorb all of it, his strength will greatly increase. It is a great opportunity for him. Hong Lian nonchalantly spoke. Afterward, she raised her hand and a ball of flames rushed out of Bai Dao, returning to her hand before disappearing. Jian Chen obviously became extremely happy knowing that Bai Dao had obtained such a great opportunity to increase his strength. He arrived by Bai Dao's side and asked out of concern, "Uncle, are you all right? How do you feel?" Bai Dao slowly opened his eyes. They were filled with weakness and exhaustion. He had yet to convert the portion of the Venerable Poison Sword's soul he had devoured into his own, while even more fragments of the soul and mysteries of the world remained in his head. The weakness in his soul was due to the suppression he suffered as well as the fact that his body's control was forcefully seized from him. Bai Dao looked at Jian Chen with mixed emotions as gladness filled his face. After so many years, his nephew was becoming more and more outstanding. "Xiangtian, you're fine now. The Yama Hall was the mysterious people who wiped out our Bai family long ago. Only you can complete the revenge now," Bai Dao said. Killing intent surged in Jian Chen's eyes when he heard that. He grit his teeth. "I never thought that the mysterious people who wiped out the Bai family back then was the Yama Hall. I can finally avenge the Bai family now. Uncle, go rest first. Leave everything to me," Jian Chen said to Bai Dao. He gazed around and saw that a large portion of the 1,000 or so assassins of Yama Hall had been slaughtered by the 5 saint rulers. Only a dozen or so saint ruler assassins remained. Although there was the punishment of celestial decay if saint rulers or above killed those below saint ruler, that was only applicable to massacres, targeting those who kill millions of people. Just killing 1,000 people would not lead to celestial decay. Violent booms constantly vibrated around. The battle in the distance became even more intense. The 5 saint rulers now worked together as they encircled the saint ruler assassins, killing them one by one. The saint ruler assassins were all limited in their movements. Although they could counterattack, it was very difficult for them to move, so even if they were more powerful, they could not resist the joint attacks of the 5 saint rulers. In the blink of an eye, 2 of the weaker saint ruler assassins were killed off by the 5 saint rulers. On the other hand, the slaughter of those above saint ruler would not increase the sins of a person and lead to celestial decay, no matter how horrifying the slaughter was. Jian Chen coldly stared at the remaining saint ruler assassins. With his emperor armament, he used the illusionary flash, charging toward them from where he was in the form of a blur. Every time he passed by one of them, the emperor armament would turn into a black streak of light and a head would be launched into the air. Even saint rulers at the 9th heavenly layer were not Jian Chen's opponent. Very soon, all of them died to Jian Chen's hands. Their souls were all wiped out as blood dyed the sky, falling like rain. Jian Chen's white robes fluttered as his long hair swept about. He stood in the air with his emperor armament, which dripped with blood, seeming just like a god of slaughter. He glared at the destroyed divine hall and coldly called out, "How much longer are you going to hide, you, the real experts of the Yama Hall? Are you still not going to come out?" He had learned from Changyang Zhu Yunxiao that there was not a lot of Saint Kings in the Yama Hall, but there was more than one. Suddenly, an extremely thin spike appeared behind Jian Chen. It stabbed at the back of Jian Chen's head with lightning speed and utter silence, wanting to wipe out his soul in a single stroke. Chapter 1094. Spectral Elder. Suddenly, an extremely thin spike appeared behind Jian Chen. It stabbed at the back of Jian Chen's head with lightning speed and utter silence, wanting to wipe out his soul in a single stroke. The spike had appeared suddenly, without any prior signs. Even as it shot out, it was completely silent, not radiating with any energy. It was extremely fast, enough to rival Jian Chen's sword. Jian Chen's eyes suddenly narrowed. Although he failed to notice the killing strike from behind him, he could sense everything since he had expanded his presence. Using the illusory flash, he left a blur where he was standing before and appeared 3 meters away. The emperor armament in his hand cut through space as it stabbed at the spike. The black spike passed through Jian Chen's afterimage before returning with unbelievable speed. It collided with the emperor armament. With a boom, the emperor armament struck the tip of the spike. A terrifying energy erupted, wreaking havoc in the surroundings, causing the area to violently tremble. Jian Chen took a few steps back from the great force. A silver-clothed figure could vaguely be seen that quickly retreated. The figure seemed to be fused with the surroundings, becoming extremely faint to the point where it was barely visible. The next moment, the figure suddenly vanished, disappearing completely. Jian Chen finally became rather stern. He knew he had come across a true expert now. To be able to match his emperor armament, not only did his opponent reach the 7th heavenly layer of Saint King, his opponent also possessed an extremely profound concealing technique. He could fuse with the surroundings, and even Jian Chen's presence was not enough to sense where he was. What a great concealing technique! Jian Chen could not help but praise. Many people knew techniques where they could hide themselves from others. Those were only small tricks, but these small tricks could not escape the senses of Jian Chen's presence. However, the assassin's concealing technique was able to hide from Jian Chen's presence in such a way that Jian Chen could not find him. "You must be the previous Yama of the Yama Hall," Jian Chen emotionlessly said. He fully expanded his presence and paid attention to everything, keeping his guard against the life-threatening attack that the hidden assassin could deal at any moment. "I am the spectral elder of the Yama Hall, not the former Yama. Captain Jian Chen, Since you want to devastate the Yama Hall, I can only lay my hands on you. An old voice rang out from the empty space, making it impossible to pinpoint where the speaker was. Jian-Chen slightly frowned. His presence had already enveloped the entire dragon's domain, but he failed to find where the person was hiding. Jian-Chen, this person's concealing technique has already reached a state of absolute mastery while my grasp over the dragon's domain has yet to reach perfection. It is unable to limit his movements, and I can't find where he's hiding, Ruijin said to Jian-Chen through a communication technique. Jian-Chen chuckled at the sky. Finally, an opponent equal to me. Spectral Elder, so what if your concealing technique has reached a level of perfection? You still can't make sneak attacks on me. Senior Ruijin, Senior Heiyu, and Senior Hong Lian, leave this person to me. You're too confident, Jian-Chen. You'll die for sure today. Unless I am facing is a 9th heavenly layer Saint King, no one can survive my assassination skills. The Spectral Elder's voice rang out once more, but it was still impossible to find where he was. Suddenly, the black spike appeared behind Jian-Chen again. It shot toward Jian-Chen silently, and by following the trajectory of the spike, an extremely vague figure could be seen. It seemed like a cloud of smoke. A sharp gleam of light flickered through Jian-Chen's eyes. He wanted to stab the Emperor Armament back and engage in a battle with the Spectral Elder, but the Spectral Elder did not bother to tangle with him too much. He hid in the empty space once more where Jian-Chen lost track of him. With a cold face, Jian-Chen constantly stabbed at the empty space before him. He created a dense net of blurs that enveloped the space in front of him as he tried to force the Spectral Elder out of hiding. However, the black spike appeared once more at this moment on Jian-Chen's left side. The spike fused with the surrounding space, arriving near Jian-Chen in an instant. It easily pierced through Jian-Chen's body, puncturing his left shoulder. It traveled all the way to his left shoulder bone. Jian-Chen roared as the chaotic force within him surged. All of it gathered in his left shoulder, and by enduring the heart-stabbing pain, he used the bone to stop the spike from advancing as he swiftly attacked the Spectral Elder with the Emperor Armament, which was filled with an aura of destruction. The Spectral Elder coldly snorted as Saint Force surged out of the spike, shattering Jian-Chen's left shoulder bone. He removed the spike and then quickly retreated, wanting to hide in empty space again. Unfortunately, Jian-Chen did not give him that chance. The instant the Spectral Elder hid in empty space again, the Emperor Armament passed under his arm, leaving behind a wound. A sliver of chaotic force entered the wound from the Emperor Armament, quickly destroying the Spectral Elder's flesh and blood. Although he was powerful, his body was nowhere near as tough as Jian-Chen's body. He was unable to withstand the chaotic force as the intense pain from the chaotic force caused him to involuntarily grunt. Afterward, his body completely disappeared in empty space without leaving behind a single drop of blood. Jian-Chen snickered. He had a wondrous connection with chaotic force. Even though the Spectral Elder had hidden in empty space, Jian-Chen could find where he was through the sliver of chaotic force that had entered his body. Spectral Elder, I'd like to see where you run off to now. Jian-Chen took a single step and traversed thousands of meters. The Emperor Armament stabbed at empty air. Ding! The Spectral Elder blocked Jian-Chen's Emperor Armament with the Saint weapon in his hand. He could no longer remain hidden in space, finally appearing before Jian-Chen. He was a bald, old man, skinny and small. He wore a silver robe made out of some unknown material, which was tightly wrapped around him. The area below his arm had already become red with blood. The residual chaotic force was forcefully being suppressed by the old man's powerful Saint Force, preventing it from expanding. How is this possible? How did you find where I was? The Spectral Elder stared at Jian-Chen in shock. Your hiding techniques are useless before me. Let's have a solid battle with our own strengths, sneered Jian-Chen. He attacked the Spectral Elder once more with the Emperor Armament. The Spectral Elder did not buy it. With a flash, he disappeared into empty space once again, but he was immediately discovered by Jian-Chen, forcing him out of hiding. My void movement technique may be ineffective against you, but I can still kill you. The Spectral Elder no longer hid in empty space. A vast surging energy leaked from him as the black spike in his hand began to glow with dark light. He began engaging in an intense battle with Jianqin. Every assassin of the Yama Hall rarely engaged in open battles. They were more used to assassinations, often using the easiest method to catch the opponent off guard and deal a fatal blow. Now that the Spectral Elder's assassination techniques were useless against Jianqin, he could only fight him head-on. The Spectral Elder was an assassin, but he was still a 7th Heavenly Layer Saint King. He had gone through countless battles on the edge of life and death, so he was extremely powerful even without his assassination techniques. He possessed extremely rich experience in combat. Violent booms filled the surroundings. The Emperor armament in Jianqin's hand had already turned into a vicious black dragon, moving so fast that space shattered. His Emperor armament stabbed out continuously in the form of blurs, moving extremely quickly. Each strike was sharp and fast and filled with viciousness, only aiming to harm the Spectral Elder. The spike in the Spectral Elder's hand stabbed out quickly as a terrifying energy wrapped around it. It was no slower than Jianqin's attack speed, but the only difference was that every attack from Jianqin was extremely fluid, flowing from one to another like water. It seemed to possess some other profoundness at the same time. On the other hand, the Spectral Elder focused more on power. Each strike possessed an earth-shaking might, wanting to suppress Jianqin with supreme strength. It was an intense clash, a battle between power, a collision of strength. More importantly, it was a fierce fight of life and death. Jianqin matched the Spectral Elder with his Emperor armament, fighting to the point where the surroundings fell into chaos. Even Rui Jin's dragon's domain violently trembled. The two of them clashed over 1,000 times very soon. They both were dyed with blood and wounds littered their bodies. No one gained an advantage. Ancient secret technique, devouring the world. The Spectral Elder suddenly bellowed out. He exhaled after opening his mouth. Immediately, a huge ghost's face appeared, opening its pitch-black mouth toward Jianqin before sucking violently. Faced with the sudden suction, Jianqin immediately flew toward the ghost's mouth. Jianqin saw the glimmering of stars within the pitch-black mouth, the boundless cosmos. This was an extremely powerful ancient secret technique. Jianqin knew that once he was sucked into it, he would probably be released in that region of outer space, without any hopes of returning. Jianqin drew closer and closer to the mouth. The suction was extremely powerful and had already locked onto him. He could not escape. Jianqin roared at the sky as chaotic force wildly ran through his body like wild horses. The Emperor armament glowed with a blinding, dark light as a presence of destruction filled the domain. He then sliced as hard as he could at the ghost face, causing it to violently tremble. Jianqin struck out over 10 times in that short instance. Each attack utilized all he had, causing the ghost face to continuously tremble. In the end, it ripped apart into several pieces. Spurt. With the ancient secret technique shattered, the Spectral Elder also suffered a backlash. He vomited a mouthful of blood and paled. The injury this time was bad, much more severe than all the wounds he had received earlier. Chapter 1095. The former Yama Jianqin reacted extremely quickly. After breaking through the ancient secret technique, he immediately attacked the Spectral Elder. He sent a huge sword chi, 10 meters long, toward the Spectral Elder. The Spectral Elder was no longer as powerful as before. After blocking the attack, he moved back several dozen meters uncontrollably. Before he had regained his footing, Jianqin had already appeared in front of him through the illusory flash. The Emperor armament fused with the surrounding space and radiated with a terrifying energy, stabbing toward the Spectral Elder's head. In that crucial moment, the space around Jianqin suddenly froze. Jianqin's motion paused, and his strike headed toward the Spectral Elder's head slowed. Jianqin roared out. His long hair and clothes danced about wildly as surging chaotic force shook up his insides. He broke through the frozen space, but the obstruction still affected him. Not only did he lose a perfect opportunity to kill the Spectral Elder, the Spectral Elder had stabbed out and punctured his chest. Jianqin, I'll take your life with us if you want to wipe out the Yama Hall. At the same time, Jianchen heard a voice. A black-robed young man, who seemed B2 in his 20s, silently appeared beside the spectral elder. He held the exact same spike as the spectral elder, stabbing at Jianchen's forehead with lightning speed. "That's a 9th heavenly layer Saint King." Rui Jin's expression changed as he watched on from afar. He immediately disappeared from where he was, swiftly rushing over. Rui Jin was very fast, but the young man was even faster. The black spike arrived before Jianchen's forehead in an instant. Rui Jin could not save Jianchen even with his speed. Jianchen could not dodge at all. The attack had locked onto his presence, so he felt like he could not avoid it no matter what he tried. All he could do was take it forcefully. The moment before death, Jianchen became extraordinarily calm. A golden streak of light flashed from his forehead during a crucial moment, and a fist-sized golden tower immediately flew out. It collided with the black spike in the form of a golden streak of light. With a great boom, the life-threatening attack that came from the young man was successfully blocked by the saint artifact. A sliver of pity appeared in the young man's eyes. He glanced in Rui Jin's direction, and he immediately became stern. He swung a palm full of dense energy toward Jianchen's chest before immediately disappearing into empty space. He had vanished. Jianchen vomited a mouthful of blood as he was blown away like a broken kite. His chest had completely caved in, his ribs had all shattered, and his organs had all ruptured. His injuries were severe. Killing intent flashed through the spectral elder's eyes when he saw how heavily injured Jianchen had become. He immediately pursued Jianchen, wanting to end his life. Rui Jin had already arrived where the young man was before. With a sunken face, glaring eyes, and a glimmering, golden body, a vast pressure filled with anger appeared in the surroundings. He had clearly been angered. "Magical beast, I know I'm not your opponent, so farewell today." The young man's cold voice rang out from empty space. "Arg!" On the other side, Jianchen furiously roared. Chaotic force rampaged within him, quickly healing his injuries. Although it was impossible for him to make a full recovery in such a short amount of time, he suppressed his injuries as fast as he could. "Spectral Elder, I can still claim your life even if I'm heavily injured," Jianchen yelled out. His battle intent increased, and not only did his might fail to decrease, it had become even greater than before. This was the strongest aspect of the chaotic body. With a powerful body and vitality, Jianchen possessed battle prowess far greater than ordinary people. Unless he came across people that were far stronger than him, he could take on people at the same level as him even if he was heavily injured. The bloodied Jianchen began fighting the spectral elder once more. He was even more wild and even more bold than before. He cast away everything and fought the spectral elder in a way that traded blow for blow. The saint artifact floated above his head, ready to block a sneak attack from the hiding 9th heavenly layer Saint King at any moment. By himself, Jianchen possessed the might of a 3rd heavenly layer Saint King. He only possessed strength at the 7th heavenly layer because of the Emperor armament, so the 7th heavenly layer was his current limit. It just happened to be equal to the spectral elder's strength, so as the two ferociously fought, their wounds constantly increased. The residual chaotic force in the spectral elder's body had already been forced out by his supreme strength, so it could no longer deal any more damage to the spectral elder. With a cold expression, Rui Jin growled, "My dragon's domain is a smaller realm, independent from the outside world. Unless you are at great perfection as well, you cannot escape. If I don't come out of hiding, you can't find me either. I can perform sneak attacks on you all the time," said the young man. "Your status in the Yama Hall must be extraordinary with your strength. If I've guessed correctly, you should be the master of the Yama Hall that was heavily injured by the sect master of the Bloodsword sect 1,000 years ago," replied Rui Jin. He had some understanding in regards to the Yama Hall's current strength from what Jianchen had told him before. "Correct, I am the previous Yama. Now that my wounds have completely healed, I am roughly just as strong as you. I may not be your opponent, but if I pester you, I will irritate you." "Magical beast, do you think there's a need for us to brawl it out?" said the former Yama. He feared Rui Jin, so he wanted to stop fighting with him. Scorn filled Rui Jin's eyes. He said, "The void movement technique of your Yama Hall truly is admirable, to be able to hide from the senses of my dragon's domain. It really is powerful, but finding you is as easy as a flip of my hand." With that, Rui Jin produced a loud dragon's roar at the sky. It was earth-shaking, possessing might that destroyed the surroundings. The terrifying sound wave caused the surrounding space to toss like waves. The roar contained a sliver of the dragon clan's pressure. Since the pressure originated from a golden divine dragon, a king of the dragon clan, it was much stronger than the pressure of ordinary dragons. It could harm the souls of people. The 5 saint rulers of the flame mercenaries fell unconscious, falling out of the sky. They had been knocked out by Rui Jin's earth-shaking roar. Jian Qin and the spectral elder were also affected during their ferocious fight. Both of them felt a heart-stabbing pain in their souls, causing them to become sluggish and stop fighting temporarily. However, Jian Qin's soul was far more powerful than his current strength, so he recovered before the spectral elder. He immediately stabbed the area between the spectral elder's eyebrows with the emperor armament, wiping out the spectral elder's soul and killing him off. Rui Jin's roar caused the surrounding space to violently tremble. The space tossed and turned like the surface of the ocean where waves rose one after another, forcing the former Yama out of hiding. He appeared 1,000 meters away. "Former Yama, even if you're at great perfection, you don't have the capability to irritate me. Killing you is easy. Unless you are a Saint Emperor, you have no right to discuss anything with me." Rui Jin coldly spoke. The Dragon Clan was a powerful and prideful clan, not to mention Rui Jin, who was a king of the clan. Rui Jin appeared silently next to the former Yama. Without using any weapons, he extended his hands in the direction of the former Yama's head. The former Yama became stern. Invisible world force immediately condensed, all of it gathering on the black spike in his hand. It then shot toward Rui Jin's hands in a flash. Rui Jin's expression remained the same. His hands were covered by a layer of golden scales in an instant, catching the black spike. A vicious light flickered through the former Yama's eyes. Terrifying energy loudly erupted from the black spike in attempt to blow one of Rui Jin's hands off. However, it did nothing. "You overestimate yourself if you want to take me on." Rui Jin's hand tightly grasped the former Yama's weapon. The densely packed scales on his hand were extremely tough. Even an attack from a 9th heavenly layer Saint King would struggle to harm him. At this moment, Rui Jin slowly raised his left hand as it rapidly changed, turning into a golden dragon's claw in the blink of an eye. The 5 long claws flickered with a pressing cold light as they stabbed into the former Yama's chest with lightning speed. The sharp claws impaled the former Yama, and the brutal force created a huge hole in the former Yama's chest. Blood sprayed from the former Yama's mouth. He was heavily injured, and he abandoned his weapon without a second thought. Pulling back, his figure quickly began to dull. He wanted to hide in empty space. Rui Jin took several steps through the air where each step could shatter space. They produced terrifying ripples in space, causing it to become extremely unstable. The instability prevented the former Yama from hiding. The dragon's claw flickered with a dull, golden light as inscriptions flashed. The claw came down from above, traveling toward the former Yama's head. In that instance, time seemed to stop. Even the air stopped, freezing everything. The space below Rui Jin's claws seemed to turn into an independent domain, a domain without time. The former Yama's movements halted. Rui Jin's giant claw flickered with golden inscriptions. It fell from above with incomparable force, and the moment that it came in contact with the former Yama's head, his head loudly exploded. His soul had been wiped out before it could even break out of his body. The claw continued down without any reduction in speed. It fell from above, heading down, continuing into the former Yama's body. With just a few booms, the former Yama's body was squashed into pieces. He died without a full corpse. The former Yama was a 9th heavenly layer Saint King. He was an expert who stood at the very apex of the continent, yet someone so strong as him could not even withstand a blow from Rui Jin. Jian Qin felt deeply shocked when he witnessed just how easily Rui Jin had slain a 9th heavenly layer Saint King. He could not remain calm. This was a battle where Ruijin purely used his own strength against the former Yama without any use of his origin weapon. A ninth heavenly layer Saint King could not even fight back before Ruijin. Ruijin sure is worthy of being a Dragon King. His strength is too terrifying. Our differences are just too great. It would have been impossible for me to kill that former Yama so easily if it were me, Heiyu sighed in amazement. He too felt shocked by Ruijin's terrifying strength. Chapter 1096. Fragments of a Saint tier battle skill killing a ninth heavenly layer Saint King was like nothing to Ruijin. He did not even glance at the squashed former Yama a second time. Instead, he turned around to look at the bloody Jianchen and asked, "Jianchen, are you fine?" Jianchen sucked in a deep breath and slowly calmed himself down. Ruijin's supreme strength that slaughtered a ninth heavenly layer Saint King deeply shocked Jianchen. The ninth heavenly layer stood at the very apex of Saint King. It still possessed some difference from great perfection, but this difference was tiny. Yet, the difference had become so extreme when it involved Ruijin, becoming as wide as a chasm. A ninth heavenly layer Saint King could not resist Ruijin. They could not even injure him. Jianchen shook his head. "I thank Senior Ruijin for your concern. I still can support myself." Jianchen's voice was a little weak. His injuries from the battle against the spectral elder did not affect him much. On the other hand, the palm strike from the former Yama had heavily wounded him. If it were not for his chaotic body, he would have collapsed long ago. Bai Dao flew over to Jianchen's side. Honglian's pearl had blocked off Ruijin's earth-shaking roar for Bai Dao. After all, the pearl could defend against all soul attacks, which was why he remained unaffected. "Xiangtian, now that the Yama Hall has been devastated, the revenge of our Bai family is complete as well. This is all because of you. You're very heavily injured right now, so you should go recover quickly, just in case it leaves behind any future problems." Concern filled Bai Dao's voice. Although Jianchen's strength left him deeply astounded, right now was obviously not the time for them to catch up. Jianchen nodded. Then he ordered the 5 saint rulers who had just woken up to clean up the battlefield. Afterward, he entered the artifact space, while Ruijin and the other 2 watched over the saint artifact. Covered in blood, Jianchen sat in the center of a room within a well-adorned hall of the palace. He completely bathed in extremely dense origin energy of radiant saint force, which allowed his wounds to quickly recover. The white-robed artifact spirit stood silently by Jianchen's side. He controlled the radiant saint force origin energy as it continuously entered Jianchen's body. Coupled with the recovery of his chaotic body, Jianchen's severe wounds started to vanish at an unbelievable rate. Jianchen did not use his own radiant saint force origin energy. When he initially broke through to Class 7, he did not manage to fuse a lot of the origin energy into his soul, so this origin energy was a consumable. Every strand would disappear after he used it. It would be even more difficult to replenish than chaotic force. He needed his current radiant saint force origin energy to form a foundation so that he could reach Class 8 in the future. On the Tianyuan continent, the abilities of every single radiant saint master was inborn. It would be decided as soon as they were conceived, so it was impossible to become a radiant saint master after birth. As a result, it was much easier for radiant saint masters to undergo breakthroughs. All a Class 6 radiant saint master needed was to fuse some of the radiant saint force origin energy into his soul to reach Class 7. Breaking through to Class 8 only needed accumulation. One needed to use vast amounts of radiant saint force origin energy to increase the quality of their soul. That was the secret to reaching Class 8. However, there had only ever been one Class 8 radiant saint master in the ancient times. The world lacked radiant saint force origin energy, so it did not offer the conditions required for the birth of Class 8 radiant saint masters. However, Jianchen possessed the saint artifact that specially refined radiant saint force origin energy. He possessed an overwhelming advantage, so reaching Class 8 was only a matter of time for him. Jianchen fully recovered after 4 hours. He left the room after he changed into a set of clean clothes. Then he asked the artifact spirit about the elite members of the flame mercenaries he had sent into the artifact space. Master, they have constantly fought magical beasts, continuously increasing their experience in battle and their mastery over heaven-tier battle skills. A small portion of them have broken through to Heaven's Saint Master now, while the rest are all Earth Saint Masters, reported the artifact spirit. Jianchen nodded in satisfaction. They really are improving quite quickly. I haven't poured so many heavenly resources into them for nothing. Once they reach the peak of Heaven's Saint Master, I'll send them to Mercenary City and get Xiao Ling to assist them in breaking through to Saint Ruler. Artifact Spirit, remember that none of them are allowed to die in here. This one understands. But Master, even though the heavenly resources have improved their constitutions, merely a good constitution will not allow one to reach Saint Ruler. They need to have high levels of comprehension, and I've observed every single of them. I've discovered that almost all of them have no hope of reaching Saint Ruler. Their limit is Heaven's Saint Master, said the artifact spirit. You don't need to worry about this. There is a wondrous item in the sea realm called the divine water of the world. It possesses marvelous effects on the soul. Once consumed, it can make up for this aspect that they lack, Jianchen said confidently. He was extremely confident in regards to everything. This group of people had followed him the earliest out of everyone. They were also the same people who joined the Flame Mercenaries the earliest, so he poured everything he had into raising them. He wanted to develop them into the core power of the Flame Mercenaries. Jianchen could not help but grow excited when he thought about the fact that the Flame Mercenaries would have several dozen Saint Rulers as their core power in the future. Although the current Flame Mercenaries possessed enough people who could stand at the very top, it was far too lacking in terms of experts that belonged to the center, not too weak or strong. They were nowhere near ancient clans. However, this aspect could not be made up for in a short amount of time, and it needed to be accumulated over time. Boom! At this moment, a rumble shook up another hall nearby. A pressure that originated from the world permeated the surroundings. It was extremely powerful and heavy, as if a supreme lord had descended, which caused everything to submit to its rule. It could deeply shock anyone. Jianchen stood outside his own hall, as he stared deeply at the hall where the sound came from. He remained silent. Master, your friend is trying to alter the Saint tier battle skill. He has tried things like this many times in the past few years, almost demolishing the hall several times. I ended up toughening his hall specially, the artifact spirit said as some helplessness filled his face. The Octaterra Emperor left behind this Saint tier battle skill. Its might is far greater than battle skills that Saint Kings can create, so it won't be easy if newbies wants to alter a Saint tier battle skill for members of the sea race so that it suits magical beasts. However, he seems to have achieved some success now. I just wonder how much time he needs before he completes it truly, murmured Jianchen. Reminiscence filled his eyes. Newbies had already gone into seclusion for many years now, so he somewhat missed the times where they had fought and struggled for their lives together. Jianchen left the artifact space. When he appeared in the outside world again, Rui Jin's dragon's domain had already vanished. The surroundings had returned to their previous state, while the great banner of the Flame Mercenaries was firmly planted on the highest point of the ruined Divine Hall. It danced and moved about in the wind, signaling the victory of the Flame Mercenaries. The 5 Saint Rulers arrived before Jianchen and passed over a space ring. They said, "The after-battle cleanup is complete. All the space rings and treasures within the Divine Hall have been stored in there." As soon as Jianchen accepted the space ring, Rui Jin flew out from the ruins. He held 2 square, stone tablets that were a meter wide and long, as he arrived before Jianchen. He said, "Jianchen, look what this is." He directly flung the 2 pieces of stone toward Jianchen as he smiled. Jianchen caught the 2 tablets with a single hand and his hand immediately sunk. The 2 tablets that were not very big were extraordinarily heavy, actually more heavy than gold. There were clear images distinctly carved into them, but it was incomplete. Jianchen raised the 2 tablets and carefully examined the images. Afterward, a gleam of light flashed through his eyes, and he immediately pulled out a similar stone tablet from his space ring. The 3 stone pieces were the same in both size and color, just that the carvings differed. These are fragments of a Saint-tier battle skill. Jian Chen exclaimed in surprise. The Saint-tier battle skill fragment in his possession was obtained when several kingdoms formed a coalition and attacked the Jessen kingdom. He had found it in the treasury of the Qiangan kingdom. Correct, these are fragments of a Saint-tier battle skill. It seems like it has been split into 6 pieces, He Yu said indifferently. A Saint-tier battle skill may mean nothing to Jian Chen, but it was much, much more than that to the flame mercenaries. Jian Chen stowed the 3 fragments away before thanking He Yu. Then he left with everyone else. Jian Chen had already sent Bai Dao into the artifact space so that he could properly recuperate. He Yu personally ripped open a space gate to the Changyang clan in Lore City. After that, they left with Jian Chen. The surroundings fell into a deathly silence once more with their departure. Only a large pile of corpses and a devastated divine hall stood there. A light breeze traveled through the place and blew the bloody smell everywhere. Only a bunch of ruins and corpses remained of the Yama Hall, which was one of the 3 great assassination organizations that had stood on the Tianyuan continent for over 100,000 years. Jian Chen let the 5 saint rulers return to Flame City by themselves after they returned to the Changyang clan. Afterward, he paid a visit to Bai Yuntian's room all by himself. All he found was his mother sitting by her bed, as she sewed a piece of clothing lined with golden silk. "Mother!" Jian Chen called out. Although she was already more than 50 years old, Bai Yuntian still had the appearance of a lady in her 20s. Time left no mark on her face, but she did seem much more mature and much more dignified. Chapter 1097. Visiting Dragon Island once more, 1. Bai Yuntian's face immediately lit up with joy when she saw Jian Chen stride through the doorway. Deep love filled her eyes as her hands stopped working. She stood up with the piece of clothing still in her hands and smiled. "Xiang, perfect. Try on this piece of clothing to see if it fits. I've sewn it according to your body shape after buying some supreme cloth from outside." Jian Chen's heart warmed up from his mother's love. Outside, he was a cold expert who shook the continent and someone that various forces feared, but at home, he was an extremely obedient and filial child. "Mother, let's talk about this later. I have something much more important," Jian Chen said. Afterward, a streak of golden light shot from the spot between his eyebrows and turned into a fist-sized golden tower. With a flash of golden light, the black-robed Bai Dao suddenly appeared in the room. "Brother!" Bai Yuntian immediately cried out when she saw Bai Dao. Great surprise filled her face. Bai Dao also noticed Bai Yuntian, who stood beside him. Immediately, he became stunned as he blankly stared at her. Disbelief flooded his face. "Sister, weren't you? How are you still alive?" Bai Dao's face was filled with surprise. To him, his sister had been murdered several years ago. She should have become a pile of dirt by now. After death had separated these siblings for so many years, they had a lot to say once they were together again. Bai Yuntian revealed the secrets of her revival, which immediately stunned Bai Dao. An even greater sense of happiness filled his gaze as he looked at Jian Chen. He sighed inside. His nephew kept shocking him more and more. Not only had he become a supreme expert, but he had also become a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master at the same time. Bai Dao also spoke about his encounters outside over the past few years. Ever since Bai Yuntian had died, he had wandered the Tianyuan continent alone, personally finding ways to increase his strength. In the end, he discovered a several thousand-year-old heavenly resource that a Class 6 magical beast guarded. He obtained it after he had chased away the magical beast with a Heaven-tier battle skill. He used it to reach Heaven Saint Master. Afterward, he continued to wander the Tianyuan continent. He entered the depths of the soul-claiming mountains within the Karl Empire and was poisoned. He also faced the pursuit of a few powerful poisonous Class 6 magical beasts. He hid in Venerable Poison Sword's old dwelling after he fled. Venerable Poison Sword's soul saved him. In the end, the two of them had a discussion and reached an agreement. Venerable Poison's Word would help him complete his revenge, and he would offer his body to Venerable Poison's Word in return. However, he had never thought that the events he would experience would be so dramatic. Not only was Venerable Poison's word wiped out, a portion of his soul and comprehensions of the mysteries of the world remained in Bai Dao's head, benefiting him greatly. Bai Dao spoke indifferently, but Bai Yuntian could still feel the amount of pain Bai Dao had endured during those years. Tears continuously rolled down her face as she sobbed, "Brother, it has really been tough for you over the past few years. You've done too much for our Bai family." "No, I haven't done much. The one who's done a lot is Xiang Tian. He has devastated the Yama Hall that wiped out our family back then, so our revenge is finally complete," Bai Dao sternly explained. He understood extremely well that he would probably be dead now if it were not for his nephew. Afterward, Bai Yuntian told Bai Dao that their ancestor, Bai Hai, was completely fine, which Bai Dao rejoiced over. During that night, Jianchen returned to his room with the space ring from the 5 saint rulers. He spent 4 hours checking through the 1,000+ space rings inside. He found countless purple coins and monster cores of various classes. There were several dozen Class 7 monster cores and even 5 Class 8 ones. Class 8 monster cores could only be obtained after the death of a magical beast at the level of Saint King. Jian Chen had found them in the space rings of the Spectral Elder and the former Yama. Only experts at their levels could obtain such high-class monster cores. Jian Chen had even found numerous Heaven's Soul Stones in the space rings of other assassins. Clearly, the rock was not valuable to them. Every high-level assassin of the Yama Hall possessed a small piece that had been carved into a unique shape as a token of identification. Jian Chen put away all the Heaven's Soul Stone and the Class 7 and 8 monster cores. He did not even glance at the purple coins a second time. He planned to give them all to Bai Lian the next time he visited Flame City. And to think that back then, I would work as hard as I could, kill without regard for myself, and dance on the edge of life and death just for those purple coins and low-class monster cores. Now, these items are basically trash to me. Jian Chen smiled brilliantly as he stared at all the space rings on the floor. He immediately laughed at himself while he involuntarily thought back to the days when he would constantly fight to live. A while later, Jian Chen returned to his senses. He stored all the space rings from the Yama Hall into a single space ring before he left the room. He stared at the pitch-black sky as he suddenly rose from the ground. He shot off into outer space with a wild gust of wind and disappeared in the blink of an eye. A huge, silver-white divine hall floated above the Tianyuan continent in outer space. It just happened to be above the Jessen Kingdom. Bright and clear moonlight flowed around the divine hall. The hall continuously absorbed moonlight force. Jian Chen charged into outer space like a comet. He landed steadily outside the main entrance of the divine hall. Currently, the main entrance was tightly closed. Jian Chen seemed rather insignificant compared to the majestic entrance with his stature that had not even reached 2 meters. At this moment, a rumble rang out. The closed door slowly opened and revealed a beauty in a white dress. She held a scepter and stood silently in the doorway. She was Yu. Yu sweetly smiled when she saw Jian Chen outside the doorway. She hugged one of Jian Chen's arms intimately and softly said, "Jian Chen, my master said you had come, but I didn't believe her at all. I didn't think you'd actually come. Have you come to see me?" Jian Chen gently smiled. He said as he stared at Yu's joyful face, I've come specifically to see you. Cultivating is extremely boring, especially when you have to cultivate alone in outer space, so I was wondering if you could endure the loneliness." Yu smiled even more sweetly. She looked at Jian Chen with affection. "It is boring and lonely, but as long as I work hard, I won't drag you down once I become powerful. At that time, I can roam the world with you." Jian Chen became stunned. He suddenly felt distressed for some reason, and the heavenly enchantress and Huang Wan quickly flashed through his head. "He owed you far too much. I promise you that once I deal with all my matters, I'll hold a grand marriage with you in the Jessen Kingdom," Jian Chen swore to Yu. This was something that had originated from the bottom of his heart. "All right." Yu nodded her head slightly as she happily smiled. Afterward, she sat down on the door sill and hung onto Jian Chen's arm, staring at the huge moon in a daze. Jian Chen and Yu sat together on the steep door sill in cold and silent space, gazing at the stars in the distance. That night, the two of them did not say much. It was pure silence while they carefully cherished this lovely moment. The next day, Jian Chen unwillingly bid farewell to Yu. Then he returned to the Changyang clan. He got Yu to construct a space gate to Flame City so that he could drop off the huge fortune he had obtained from the Yamahal. After that, he described the materials needed for the azulate swords in detail to Bai Lian so that she could use the entire organization's power to search the continent. Once the items were found, he ordered her to purchase them no matter the price. After handing over the matters he needed to Bai Lian, Jian Chen and Yu visited Mercenary City together. Bai Dao remained with the Changyang clan. He had just obtained a portion of Venerable Poison Sword's powers, so he needed quite a bit of time to absorb it. Only then would it become his own power. Rui Jin and Hong Lian entered the Saint Artifact. They would only appear by Jian Chen's side when he needed them, while Yu remained outside to accompany Jian Chen. Mercenary City warmly welcomed Jian Chen once he arrived. He met with the Grand Elder without any obstructions. Jian Chen could clearly feel an odd presence on Tianjian at this time. He could closely sense that Tianjian's vitality was leaking away at an extremely slow rate. Jian Chen knew that Tianjian had approached the end of his life long ago. Saint Kings only had a lifespan of 6,000 years, and Tianjian had reached Saint King 5,000 years ago. Coupled with the time he had spent cultivating before he had reached Saint King, there was not much more of his 6,000-year lifespan left. Jian Chen suddenly felt a deep sorrow within him. Tianjian had helped him too much before. He had begun to view Tianjian as his own family member long ago, so he just could not bear to helplessly watch Tianjian leave him. However, he was unable to change Tianjian's fate with his current powers. Jian Chen, I've already learned about the matters with Ming Dong. Thank you for earning such a great opportunity for Ming Dong. Tianjian's white clothes fluttered in the wind. He remained as free and approachable as before. Although Ming Dong was not connected to Tianjian by blood in any way, Tianjian still treated him as his own son because of the connection of his ancestor. Jian Chen stared deeply at Tianjian as his emotions became complicated. He secretly sighed inside and avoided the topic of Tianjian's lifespan. He said, Ming Dong is a brother of mine, and we've gone through thick and thin together. I should be helping him, so there's no need to thank me, Senior Tianjian. Jian Chen paused slightly before he continued, Senior Tianjian, I've mainly come this time to see Tai Ta. May I ask where he is? Chapter 1098, Visiting Dragon Island once more, 2. Come with me, smiled Tianjian. Then he led Jian Chen through a palace and in the end, stopped before a huge square. A 3-meter-tall, burly man swung a huge axe in the center of the square while sweat poured from him. An extremely powerful battle intent enveloped the entire square. The elevated battle intent could affect every single person's soul and make their blood boil. It could reawaken the desire for battle hidden within everyone. The huge man's every stroke was natural. The strokes flowed perfectly and flawlessly between one another. They all possessed a heart-shaking might as if they could split the entire world in half. Jian Chen could even feel the battle intent as he stood at the edge of the square. The blood within him boiled. He felt tempted to find someone and engage in battle. Tai Ta Shur is the war god of the 100 races. The speed at which his strength increases is astonishing. Without any intentional cultivation in the past few years, he has become this powerful already. The energy within him is probably at the 5th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler, but he should be able to match 8th heavenly layer Saint Rulers. If he uses the mysteries of war, he might even be able to fight 9th heavenly layer Saint Rulers, Tianjian explained with a deep voice that carried many emotions. At this moment, Tai Ta seemed to notice Jian Chen and Tianjian's arrival. He stopped swinging his axe and excitedly ran over with it on a shoulder. He said in a low, muffled voice, Jian Chen, you've come. I've already stayed here for so long. I'm about to die from boredom. Just say something on my behalf to Senior Tianjian to convince him to let me go. I want to go outside. Tai Ta grumbled, Without Ming Dong by his side, he became even lonelier during these past few years. Tai Ta, actually, I've come to find you this time to take you out, smiled Jianchen. Really? Jianchen, are you sure that you're not tricking me? Tai Ta's eyes immediately lit up as joy crossed his face. Of course it's true. As your best friend, I would never trick you even if I have to die, Jianchen replied. Tian Jian frowned slightly and sternly said, Jianchen, Tai Ta's identity is extremely special. If you take him outside, it's extremely likely that someone who knows about the matters of the ancient times will recognize him. It'll become troublesome then. Don't worry, Senior Tian Jian. Since I'm brave enough to bring him out, I can obviously protect him. Even if the 10 protector clans come, they won't be able to touch him at all. At that time, all I need to do is throw Tai Ta into the bright moon divine hall, and then they'll be helpless. Jianchen was filled with confidence. He had the perfect insurance for Tai Ta's safety. Tian Jian did not add anything else since he knew that Jianchen had already made up his mind. He understood Jianchen's powers extremely well, so he did not stop Jianchen from taking Tai Ta out. Jianchen left Mercenary City with Tai Ta. Then, he asked He Yu to rip open a space gate to Dragon Island. He entered it with Tai Ta by his side. They arrived outside Dragon Island after they passed through the space gate. They could immediately smell the moist sea breeze, and below them was the deep blue sea. Before them was an extremely dense region of fog that connected the sky with the surface of the sea. Jianchen, why have you brought me here? Tai Ta scratched his head as he asked Jianchen in confusion. Jianchen smiled mysteriously. Tai Ta, you'll find out later on. Come, follow me, but do be careful. Once you enter the fog, it's a region of illusion. Everything you see in the fog is fake, so do not treat it as if it is real. Jianchen took a step into the fog first while Tai Ta followed close behind. The black-robed He Yu stepped into the fog last, behind both of them. As they passed through the mist, the three of them experienced many attacks from the odd fish, but it did not pose any harm to them. The illusions in the mist constantly appeared and conjured various images to affect their mental state. However, now that Jianchen's soul was extremely powerful, they could no longer affect him much. Dad, Mom, Grandpa, why have you appeared here? Suddenly, Jianchen heard Tai Ta's voice. Clearly, Tai Ta had fallen into an illusion. Even with Jianchen's warning, the illusions were just too realistic. It was almost impossible to distinguish between real and fake, which caused people to fall for them very easily. Jianchen's heart tightened. Just as he wanted to pull Tai Ta's arm and swiftly rush out of the region of mist, the imprint of the war axe on the center of Tai Ta's eyebrows began to flicker with a faint golden light. Immediately, an extremely powerful battle intent began to radiate out, shattering the illusion and causing the mist to violently surge. So it was fake. These illusions are just too powerful. I had actually thought it was real earlier, Tai Ta sighed in amazement. The three of them passed through the region of mist very quickly. They flew at a low altitude, below 10 meters, as they headed for the center of the island. Jianchen and Tai Ta ripped to shreds all the living corpses they came across. When Jianchen had entered this place with the heavenly enchantress for the first time, they had feared the living corpses very much. They would detour around any they came across, unwilling to provoke them so easily if at all. However, these living corpses were nothing to Jianchen now. Even the Saint King living corpses they came across were weak, like ants before Jianchen. Jianchen, Tai Ta, and He Yu passed through the mountains and forests and broke through many formations in the meantime. They arrived at an empty piece of land in the center of the island very quickly. Weird. I clearly remember that it was this place, so why is it gone now? Jianchen looked around as he mumbled in doubt. Jianchen, why have you brought me here? Is there some kind of treasure? Tai Ta could not help but ask once more. He felt extremely curious. Jianchen said nothing. After he pondered for a while with a frown, an idea flashed through his head. He mumbled to himself, there are many formations hidden on Dragon Island. It's extremely difficult for people to detect it. Maybe the droplet of Erjin's blood is hidden in the empty space as well. A spot where it'll only appear if the formation has been triggered. Jian believed this idea more and more as he thought about it. Afterward, he called out the white tiger and told He Yu and Tai Ta to wait where they were. He jumped on the back of the white tiger and began to run around wildly. Jian did not dare to risk himself in the formation formed from a drop of Erjin's blood. Erjin's was someone who had surpassed Saint Emperor, so no matter how confident Jian was, he did not wish to test the might of the killing formation. He could still remember that the Saint King corpses that entered the killing formation were silently turned to dust. Suddenly, Jian vision began to change. The green mountains disappeared, and he suddenly appeared in a bleak wasteland. There was no vegetation, and it stretched as far as the eye could see. No one knew just how large it was. This is the place. Jian rejoiced inside and immediately thought of the previous war god he had encountered here. A surging battle intent suddenly filled the bleak world and completely engulfed the region. It seemed to have become its own domain. A condescending aura filled the battle intent, as if only the owner of the aura was supreme. Jian had rarely ever come across such a powerful battle intent. It seemed to possess a terrifying might that was able to rip through space and destroy worlds. Bang, bang, bang. With a series of booms, the ground began to violently tremble, like an earthquake was occurring. A golden figure appeared on the edge of Jian's vision. The figure possessed great stature and was clad in golden armor. He carried a golden war axe on his shoulders, and his eyes burned with battle intent. He seemed to have been born for battle. He was the war god from ancient times, Erjin's. Even though he was conjured from a droplet of blood, he still possessed the might of a war god. Jian's body shook, and he immediately paled. Every step taken by Erjin's seemed to land on his heart, which made Jian feel like his heart was about to shatter. Jian's senses were much more powerful than before since this was his second time experiencing this formation. Although he possessed strength that rivaled 7th heavenly layer Saint Kings, he felt fragile before the golden figure. He even felt disillusioned, where even Saint Emperor who fell into the formation would not be able to face Erjin's. Although the differences between Saint Ruler, Saint King, and Saint Emperor were huge, they all belonged to sainthood. Erjin's had surpassed Saint Emperor and stepped into the Origin realm. The Origin realm and sainthood were two completely different realms of cultivation. The differences could be described as chasms. The difference between Saint Emperors and those in the Origin realm were akin to Heaven Saint Masters and Saint Rulers. Xiaobai, let's leave quick, Jian called out to the white tiger. The battle intent had already locked onto him and had rendered him motionless. Seriousness also filled the white tiger's eyes. After the supreme battle intent enveloped it, it too could feel the strength of the opponent. The white tiger immediately growled and leaped out of the formation without any obstructions. As the white tiger pulled Jian out of the formation, the surrounding scenery returned to its previous state. The space behind them rippled violently. They could clearly see a droplet of golden blood floating in the middle of the air. Tai Ta, come quick, Jian called out to Tai Ta, who was quite far away. Tai Ta and He Yu immediately shot over from afar and arrived before Jian with a few steps. The two of them gazed unblinkingly at the droplet of golden blood that hung in the air. What is this? I actually feel a fear that originates from the depths of my soul. It makes me tremble, and I can feel an extremely powerful and pure energy hidden inside. He Yu closely stared at the golden droplet of blood. He felt extremely astounded since even Saint Emperor could not give him such an intense feeling. Chapter 1099. Legacy of the War God. Tai Ta's gaze became rather complicated. At that moment, his heart struggled to remain calm, beginning to wildly beat and shiver. Even his burly body shook slightly as a deep feeling of sorrow radiated from him. Jian, just what is that? Why do I feel so sad and painful when I see it? Jian, I feel horrible inside. Tai Ta's expression suddenly became extremely pained. Even he did not know why he felt like that. That's the blood of the war god Erjin's. Tai Ta, the owner of the blood is your predecessor, Jian explained with mixed emotions. What? This is blood left behind by the ancient war god, Erjin's? He Yu was shocked. However, he eased up soon and said, no wonder my body shakes. So it's a droplet of essence blood from Ergens. Tai-Ta stood there blankly as he stared at the droplet of golden blood. 2 clear streaks of tears ran down his face. He was the new war god. Although he was different than the previous god, they possessed a similar bloodline that came from the same origins. Tai-Ta seemed to see the previous war god leading his clansmen into war as he stood before the droplet of blood, searching for a safe place for his clansmen with all he had before dying heroically in a foreign land. A deep sorrow welled up in Tai-Ta. He seemed to have formed a subtle connection with the droplet of blood before him. The space in front of him blurred and the golden droplet of blood became fainter and fainter, as if it would disappear into the empty space at any moment. The formation there would only be activated if someone entered it. Otherwise, it would remain well hidden in empty space. Now that Jianchen had already left after triggering it, the formation would disappear soon. At this moment, the drop of golden blood began to forcefully move up and down. A blinding golden light radiated from the droplet, forcefully stopping the formation's power. An extremely powerful ripple of energy erupted from the blood with a surging battle intent. Bang, bang, bang. With several consecutive booms in the surroundings, the energy from the blood broke through the formation which restricted it, causing the surrounding mountains and rocks to crack. No longer restricted by the formation, the supreme battle intent and terrifying energy within the blood immediately began to radiate out, enveloping the entire island. It caused the mountain ranges to violently tremble. The drop of blood turned into a golden streak of light as it flew toward Tai-Ta. It then disappeared into his forehead. Immediately, the battle axe imprint between Tai-Ta's eyebrows began to radiate with blinding light, outshining the sun. The golden glow illuminated the world, dyeing the world gold. Tai-Ta could not help but close his eyes. His consciousness had already entered a bleak world completely enveloped by a supreme battle intent. However, not only did Tai-Ta fail to find the battle intent to be uncomfortable, he found it to be extremely warm and comforting. The feeling was like a child who had entered his mother's bosom after leaving home for many years. 10 meters in front of Tai-Ta, a man clad in golden armor stood with his arms crossed and with his back to Tai-Ta. A supreme presence radiated from him, as if he was a god of the world. Tai-Ta could not see the man's face, but he felt extremely close to the man. This closeness was hundreds, even thousands times more powerful than what he felt with his parents. My name is Ergens. I am a member of the warring gods. Only those who are connected to me by blood can awaken this imprint. A heavy voice boomed through the world. It was powerful and contained a strong attack toward souls. Only those of the warring gods could withstand it. To think that the people of the warring gods are born from the world, blessed by the world, and inherit their abilities from the world. Our battle prowess is peerless, yet I died in a foreign battlefield in the end. What a pity, what a regrettable matter. A deep sorrow filled the world. This was the feeling that Ergens had left behind all those years ago. The magical beasts went too far. They invaded my homeland and chased away my citizens. I led my clansmen to fight the magical beasts, but I was forced to flee since I could not defeat the winged tiger god. I then turned to the Tianyuan continent, yet I was stopped by Emotenyun. To think that I was a warring god, possessing peerless battle prowess and abilities that came from the world itself, invincible against those at the same level of cultivation, but I was still not the winged tiger god or Emotenyun's opponent. What a joke, what a funny joke. I've already died, but I still worry about my citizens. New war god, go complete my final wish. Protect my citizens well and help them find an even more beautiful world. In return, I shall bequeath this drop of essence blood upon you. With that, Ergens' body suddenly shattered, disintegrating into countless fragments. The winged tiger god and Emotenyun are unfathomable. They have already broken through the limitations of life and survive with the world. They are eternal, so do not avenge me. The moment before Ergens had completely turned into fragments, another voice boomed through the sky. Afterward, Ergens completely disappeared and the bleak world loudly shattered apart. The fragments of Ergens were split into 2 portions. One consisted of fragments of memories that entered Tai Ta's soul, while the other fragments were the energy within the essence blood, which fused with Tai Ta's body. Immediately, Tai Ta felt many things appear in his head. These things were all the battle comprehensions of Ergens, containing many frighteningly powerful mysteries of war. The droplet of essence blood had already turned into a powerful energy that flowed through Tai Ta's body. Although there was very little of it, it was still energy left behind by Ergens. It contained vast amounts of energy of the world that had been compressed into a tiny droplet, so it was extremely terrifying and powerful. Just that tiny amount of energy was enough to rival a portion of all the energy within a Saint Emperor, enough to rival several Saint Kings. Tai Ta's entire body was coated by a blinding golden light. He continuously absorbed the memories of Ergens as the extremely pure energy flowed unceasingly into his body. It was converted into Tai Ta's own power at an unbelievable rate. Warring gods were birthed by the world and were richly endowed with advantages. As Ergens possessed the same bloodline as Tai Ta, there were no backlashes or consequences for Tai Ta as he increased his strength through the energy Ergens had left behind. Tai Ta's presence rapidly strengthened, and the power within him increased quickly as well. He went from the 5th heavenly layer to the 6th heavenly layer very quickly, and not only did his rate of increase fail to show any signs of slowly down, it instead skyrocketed, becoming faster and faster. Jian Chen and He Yu stood 30 meters away as they stared at Tai Ta unblinkingly, silently watching over him. Looks like Ergens' drop of essence blood is being absorbed by Tai Ta. This is a droplet of blood left behind by someone who has surpassed Saint Emperor. The energy hidden inside is so terrifying that it can even injure Saint Emperors, yet Tai Ta's obtained it so easily. He Yu emotionally sighed as he looked at Tai Ta with some envy. I've guessed correctly. Ergens' droplet of blood really is extremely beneficial to Tai Ta. Now that Tai has come across this item, I wonder what level his strength will reach. Jian Chen was filled with anticipation. 7th heavenly layer, 8th heavenly layer, 9th heavenly layer. Tai Ta's strength skyrocketed at an incomparable pace. In just half a day, he reached the 9th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler from his original 5th heavenly layer, bypassing 4 lesser cultivation levels. Jian Chen clenched his hands as he stared at Tai Ta without blinking at all. Although Saint Ruler and Saint King both belonged to sainthood, the difference between the two was still very great. He wondered if Tai Ta could borrow the energy within the blood to break through the barrier of the 9th heavenly layer and reach Saint King. Tai Ta's presence at the 9th heavenly layer slowly increased. Now, the energy he needed for each level of cultivation was increasing, which was why it took him longer and longer to break through. Finally, Tai Ta's presence reached the very peak of the 9th heavenly layer. As Jian Chen watched with much anticipation, a vast and surging pressure immediately appeared from Tai Ta's presence. It was extremely weak at first before quickly strengthening and blanketing the surroundings. At the same time, the supreme battle intent sandwiched within the presence underwent a qualitative change, becoming much more powerful than before. Suddenly, a golden streak of light cut through the sky. It passed through the forbidden altitude of the Dragon Island and landed accurately in between Tai Ta's eyebrows, on the imprint of the battle axe. This was the world passing on its teachings. Warring gods were born from the world and were blessed by the world. Every time they entered a new cultivation realm, the world would pass on teachings. Tai Ta subconsciously raised his head and pointed the imprint at the sky. He accepted the teachings of the world as mysterious information appeared from the void, entering between Tai Ta's eyebrows through the golden streak of light. In a desolate continent, a group of life forms vastly different from humans inhabited the land. There were 10-meter-tall giants as well as handsome and pretty winged elves with pointy ears. There were also dark-skinned dwarves that were no taller than a meter, and even rock men completely made from stone. The continent was known as the Wasteland Continent, home to the 100 races. It was inhabited by a myriad of races, not just a single race like humans. However, there were some races who seemed extremely similar to humans. At the center of the continent stood a mountain range that reached into the clouds. It was barren, without any vegetation. There were odd rock formations that stood around the dangerous terrain. It was unscalable. At the highest peak of the mountain range, a divine golden hall radiated with blinding light all year round. It stood there silently and radiated with a simple but ancient presence. It had existed for countless years and was almost as old as the ground. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.